Hello, how you guys doing today? Nabisuki here, Kitsune Gamer for ASMR Friday. And we are going to continue on our book streak of book 2 of Warriors Into the Wild. I did activate all the redeems, so you can still use those. I haven't seen anyone really use them while I'm doing the book ASMR. However, they are still available. I do have to put a timer on when they're used, and I would take a break in between reading. But I have posted the last week one of the prologue through chapter 5. I also have posted all of the previous book. I tend to try and take the previous week's VOD for the ASMR for the books and try to post them on YouTube right before I go live for the previous week, coming into the next week for the ASMR Friday. So if you guys actually want to check that out, you can actually go on to the YouTube, or you can also see that in the Discord in the VOD section, because it automatically posts when it gets put onto YouTube. But I'm going to tell you guys a short snippet of the previous place where we left off. So you guys know the main character, which is Fireheart from book 1 and is now in book 2. We had several name changes. We've had a bunch of deputies die. We had the Shadow Clan run off, and now we have the confrontation in book 2 We finally had Fireheart talk to the clan leader about Tiger Claw and the possibility that he actually may have murdered a previous deputy within the clan. And that is currently where we left off, and we are going to be on chapter 6 to start. If you guys need anything, let me know. Other than that, I will be taking breaks during the ad breaks because me constantly talking does put strain on my throat, since I try to just continue without really taking a break until the ad break. So that way you guys actually get more time with me, and I take the breaks during the time that you usually can't see me. Usually I take about half of the ad break to take a quick break, use the restroom, or drink water. But you are still able to use the redeems for Hydrate and Snackies. And of course, since we are on the ASMR settings, you'll actually be able to hear those. I do still have Pringles left. I still also have some Gushers, as well as some water bottles here. But other than that, let's go ahead and start on chapter 6. Fireheart pressed his body against Graystripe, who had padded out to join him. They had to show no threat if they were to survive. The Wind Clan warriors stood their ground without moving a muscle. They're waiting for a signal from their leader, Fireheart realized. They still follow the warrior code, even though they have to live like this. So in the previous book, right at the end on chapter 5, we were sent out to find the Wind Clan cats, and they were on the roadside around a fire of, I assume, homeless humans. And that is where we are currently, just to give you guys a heads up if you are a little bit confused on why it's starting with some hostility. They still follow the warrior code, even though they have to live like this. From behind the line of warriors, a black and white Tom weaved his way to the front. With a jolt, Fireheart recognized the long-tailed cat from his dream. This must be Tallstar, leader of Wind Clan. Tallstar sniffed the air, but Fireheart and Graystripe were downwind, the scents carried away by the steady breeze. As a black and white cat walked toward them, Fireheart breathed in the rank odor of crow food that hung on his hooves. Like Graystripe, he remained perfectly still, his eyes down, as Tallstar circled them, sniffing their fur closely. Finally, Tallstar returned to his warriors. Fireheart heard him murmur, "ThunderClan." The warriors flattened their fur but remained in a defensive line, shielding the rest of the cats. Tallstar turned to face his visitors and sat down, curling his tail carefully around his paws. "I was expecting ShadowClan," he growled, his eyes burned with hostility. "Why are you here?" "I came to find you," Fireheart meowed, feeling his voice crack with tension. "Bluestar and the other clan leaders want you to return to your home." The Wind Clan leader's voice was still wary. "That land is not safe for my clan," he meowed. There was a hunted look in Tallstar's eye that sent a pang of sorrow through Fireheart. "ShadowClan has driven out Broken Star," he meowed. "He is no longer a threat." The warriors behind Tallstar turned to look at one another. Murmurs of surprise rippled back through the clan. "You must return as soon as possible," Fireheart urged. "ShadowClan and RiverClan are starting to hunt in the uplands." We saw a RiverClan hunting patrol near the old badger set, but we're on our way here. Tallstar bristled angrily. But they are poor rabbit hunters, Graystripe added. I think they went home with empty bellies. Tallstar and his warriors purred with satisfaction. Their good spirits encouraged Fireheart, but he could see how weak they were. This clan would find the journey back to the uplands long and hard. May we travel with you? He suggested respectfully. Tallstar's eyes flashed. He knew the question was a tactful offer of help. He looked steadily at Fireheart. Yes, he replied at last. Thank you. Fireheart realized he hadn't introduced himself. This is Graystripe, he meowed, dipping his head. And I am Fireheart. We are warriors of ThunderClan. Fireheart, repeated Tallstar thoughtfully. Sunlight was flooding through the gap in the roof now, making Fireheart's orange-pelled glow in the dim tunnel. The name suits you. Another monster roared overhead. Fireheart and Graystripe flinched. Tallstar watched them with amusement and flicked his tail. It must have been a signal for the line of warriors behind him to split up. We shall leave at once, he announced, standing up. Are we all fit for the journey? Tallstar asked, as the warriors began to move among the queens and elders. All except Morningflower's Kit, replied a malted brown warrior. He is too young. Then we must take turns carrying him, answered Tallstar. WindClan Cat shuffled forwards, her eyes dull with pain and exhaustion. A tortoiseshell queen was holding tiny Kit gently by the scruff of its neck. The little creature's eyes were hardly open. Ready? Called Tallstar. A black Tom with misshapen paw looked around the clan and answered for them. Ready, he meowed. Fireheart and Graystripe turned and made their way back to the tunnel entrance and waited while the WindClan cats emerged, blinking into the daylight. Some of the elders blinked so long, their faces screwed up against the weak sun, that Fireheart guessed they had not been outside the tunnel for some time. Tallstar padded out of the tunnel last of all and walked to head of his clan. So, in the time that I'm assuming from the book in the previous chapters, I think it was about 1 to 2 months that they were in that tunnel, and that is why they look so weak. Shall we take you back the way we came? Fireheart asked him. I believe it's a shortcut. Is it safe? Asked Tallstar. Fireheart saw the hunted look once more in the leader's eyes. We met no trouble coming here, Graystripe meowed. Tallstar flicked his tail decisively, as though he were brushing away any doubt. Good, he declared. You come with me, Graystripe. Show me the way. Fireheart, travel beside the clan. Tell my deputy if you see trouble. Which one is he? Asked Fireheart. Tallstar nodded towards the black Tom. Deadfoot, he meowed. The warrior turned at the sound of his name and pricked his ears. Fireheart dipped his head in greeting. He left Graystripe with Tallstar and joined the other cats. 1 second, I need to drink some water real quick. My voice is cracking a little. As the clan made their way under the Thunderpath arch, Fireheart could still smell the fire. But when they padded out on the patch of wasteland, the two lakes were nowhere to be seen. Graystripe headed straight for the tunnel where he and Fireheart had spent the night. Tallstar entered first, while Fireheart waited at the back until all the clan had disappeared inside. Only Deadfoot remained. "Are you sure it leads to daylight?" the Black Tom yelled warily. "It just leads under the Thunderpath. Have you never used this tunnel?" Fireheart asked, surprised. "When our warriors cross the Thunderpath, we prefer to see where they're heading," growled Deadfoot. Fireheart nodded, and the deputy added, "You go first." Fireheart padded down into the dark hole. He emerged to find the WindClan cats staring across the field that led to the final Thunderpath. Fireheart saw Tallstar consult briefly with Graystripe before they set off into the long, frost-crisp grass. Fireheart walked with the rest of the clan, flanking one side while Deadfoot limped steadily on the other. Before they were halfway across the field, it was clear that many of the cats were having trouble keeping up the pace. "Tallstar," yelled Deadfoot, "we need to travel more slowly." Fireheart looked over his shoulder and saw some of the cats falling further and further behind. Morningflower was among them, the kit swinging in her mouth. Fireheart bounded over to her. She was panting heavily. It couldn't have been long since her kidding. "Let me carry him," Fireheart offered, "just until you caught your breath." Morningflower glanced warily at Fireheart, but her eyes softened when they met his. She put her kit down and Fireheart took it gently, walking next to her so that she didn't lose sight of her precious bundle. Tallstar slowed the pace, but only a little. In spite of his obvious exhaustion and the fact that every rib showed under his fur, he burned with a fierce energy that lent swiftness to his paws. Fireheart could understand part of the reason for his urgency. The sun was steadily climbing above the horizon. Some of the WindClan cats were sick, some old, and all of them were weak from hunger. If they were going to cross the Thunderpath without losing any of their number, they would have to do it quickly before the monsters came in their swarms. By the time Fireheart and Morningflower arrived at the hedge, WindClan was gathered around its leader. "We crossed the Thunderpath here," Tallstar announced, above the noise of a monster racing past. The WindClan leader squeezed under the hedge. Deadfoot, Graystripe, and a young warrior followed him. Morningflower leaned towards Fireheart and took hold of her kit. She had stopped panting now, and she took the kit from I keep messing up. She brushed her cheek gratefully against his. He dipped his head to the tortoiseshell queen and followed Graystripe under the hedge. Tallstar and Deadfoot sat staring wordlessly at the wide gray path. Graystripe stood beside them. He flicked his tail toward the younger warrior. "This one is One Whisker," he told Fireheart. A monster sped past, almost drowning out Graystripe's words, whipping up stinging dust. Through streaming eyes, Fireheart mewed a greeting to One Whisker and turned his attention to the Thunderpath. "We should try to get the clan over in small groups," he meowed. "Graystripe and I will stay with any that need help." He looked at the clan leader. "If you agree, Tallstar, he added. Tallstar nodded. The strongest group will go first, he meowed. The other WindClan cats began to appear through the hedge. Before long, the whole clan was clustered beside them, pressed against the sharp twigs, as far back from the Thunderpath as possible. Fireheart and Graystripe moved to the edge, watching for a break in the line of monsters. The Thunderpath was much busier than it had been when they'd crossed last night. One Whisker led the first group forwards. Do you want us to cross with you? Fireheart offered. You could smell the young Tom's fear. The molted brown tabby shook his head. The cats beside him peered along the Thunderpath, first one way, then the other. All was quiet, and the group dashed safely over to the other side. 2 warriors came next, accompanied by a pair of skinny elders. Now, Fireheart ordered, as a monster flashed safely past. The 4 WindClan cats stepped out onto the empty Thunderpath. The elders winced as they padded across, on paws raw from the damp tunnel. Fireheart wheeled them on breathlessly as they neared the other side. The monster was zooming towards them. Look out! Graystripe yelled. Even the 2 elders bounded forwards, fur bristling, and hurled themselves to the other side. A heartbeat before the monster raced past. 2 larger groups crossed, leaving just one more. Only once they were safely over would Tallstar and Deadfoot cross. Morningflower and her kit stepped up to Fireheart's side. Behind her trembled 3 very elderly cats. We'll cross with you, Fireheart meowed. He looked at Graystripe, who nodded. Tell us when it's safe to go, Graystripe. Fireheart leaned forwards to take Morningflower's kit. Oh! Let me take a quick pause there. Hi! Hi, hello, welcome. Welcome in. Thanks for the raid. Damn, you're also a fox? I'm actually a kitsune, but this is actually my female fox model. Thank you for the raid. How is your stream? Let me give you a shout out. Give me a second. Let's see. No. There you go. Everyone check them out. They're a fox too. Yeah, fox too. Foxy fox. I hope you had a good stream. I know it may be late for you, so if you have to raid and run, if you need to eat, hydrate, go sleep, feel free. I have actually just started. This is chapter 6 of the 5 chapters I'm reading today. It was good, yes, a fox as well. We're doing some calm ASMR. Love your models. Thank you. If you can believe it, I actually did the art for this model and also rigged it. It's actually super fluffy. Look at this. It actually has some secrets. All the fur is actually separated, so it actually has some breathing. And I can actually stick my tongue out amongst other things. There's like a lot of toggles for it. But the funniest one is most definitely going to end up being the bow, but that's like a routine. You love breathing fur. Yeah, it's like so many different layers. It's like 100 different layers of fur. Just in the neck alone. The face is several different layers too. And the ears also have separate layers. I did a lot with this model. Like I have tears, I have like sparkly eyes. I have like I can question things. I have a jiggly tongue. Yeah. Thank you for the raid though. I hope your stream went well. And again, if you need to raid and run, that is perfectly fine. If you want to know what I am reading, it is the Warrior Cat series. And we are on book 2. I have the entire series, and I do the ASMR for it every Friday, and I do 5 chapters, which approximately takes me 2 to 3 hours, and I'm constantly talking, so like that's why I only do it once a week. But a snippet from the first book is that we had a kitten named Rusty. I'm gonna actually snooze that ad. Give me a second. We're gonna ignore that ad there, so you guys don't have to deal with that. So the first book was Rusty, who got his name switched to Firepaw when he became a apprentice of the Thunder Clan. And the Thunder Clan, there's several different clans: Thunder Clan, Wind Clan, River Clan, and Shadow Clan of 4 trees. In the first book, we had Rusty, the kitty pet, aka a pet from humans, turn into an apprentice, and we had some deputies die, and there's like new cats came in, new cats were born, and then we're in book 2, where there's actually betrayal in this book. Right now, we are trying to bring back the Wind Clan from being ran out from the old Shadow Clan leader, and we have some traitors in our midst. No problem, and thank you for the lurk. And I am glad you let me have a hold of your community. I hope I do a good job. I don't really get many raids, but I'm going to go ahead and go back to reading now. Thank you very much. I hope you have a nice lurk and have a nice rest as well. We're across with you, Fireheart meowed. He looked at Graystripe, who nodded. Tell us when it's safe to go, Graystripe. Fireheart leaned forwards to take Morningflower's kit, but she pulled back, her ears flat. Fireheart looked deep into her frightened amber eyes and understood she and her kit would live or die together. Now! At Graystripe's yowl, Fireheart and Morningflower stepped out onto the Thunderpath. The elders crept out behind them, with Graystripe beside them. Time seemed to stand still as the elders hobbled slowly forwards on stiff, battle-scarred legs. If a monster comes now, we're all fresh kill, Fireheart thought. The other side was still several rabbit leaps away. Come on, urged Graystripe. The elders tried to hurry, but one stumbled and Graystripe had to nose him back on his paws. Fireheart heard the distant roar of a monster. Go on ahead, he hissed to Morningflower. Or bring the elders. Morningflower stumbled forwards. Her kit squealed as it bumped against the hard ground. Fireheart and Graystripe pressed themselves against the elders' scrawny bodies, nudging them forwards. The noise of the approaching monster grew louder and louder. Fireheart grabbed the nearest elder by the scruff of the neck and dragged him forwards, before turning to haul the second closer to the verge. The monster raced closer. Fireheart closed his eyes and braced himself. There was a screech and an acrid smell that stung his throat, and a fading roar as the monster sped away. Fireheart opened his eyes and looked around. Graystripe was crouching in the middle of the thunderpath, unscathed, but staring with eyes as wide as full moons. One elder cowered between them. The other two trembled near the verge. The monster was hurled away from them, swerving across the thunderpath. Thank StarClan, it had missed them all. Fireheart took a shuddering breath. Come on, he meowed to the last elder. Almost there. Tarstar bounded across with Deadfoot and gathered his trembling clan around him on the verge. The ad has come back to haunt us and is going to appear in 3 minutes, so please make sure to lower your volume so you are not spooked by the ads. Ads do tend to be a lot louder than the actual stream itself. When the ad starts, I will take a short break to let me catch my breath, drink, and use the restroom. Thank you. One whisker touched Fireheart's nose with his own. You would have died for us, he murmured. WindClan would never forget that. Tallstar's voice sounded behind them. One whisker is right. We shall honor you both in our stories. We must keep going, he continued. We have a long journey ahead of us. As the cats prepared to move off, Fireheart padded over to Morningflower. She was busy licking her kit. Is he alright? Fireheart asked. Oh yes, answered Morningflower. What about you? Asked Fireheart. Morningflower didn't answer. Fireheart turned to a gray queen who answered the unspoken question. Don't worry, she meowed. I'll take the kit next. The clan followed the hedgerow along the thunderpath before turning away to join the track through the woods. The scents here seemed to soothe the WindClan cats, but the journey had taken its toll. They were traveling slower than ever. Oh my god, thank you for the follow. You didn't have to. Remember that the ASMR is only on Fridays. If you show up on a different day, you are going to see a different model along with a different voice, and it's going to be a lot more chaotic. When they reached the fence at the far side, it took all Fireheart's strength to help the weakest cats over. The sun had passed its highest point by the time Fireheart spotted the two-leg place in the distance. He sniffed the air hopefully, but there was still no scent of Ravenpaw. Fireheart felt a stab of grief and tried to ignore the nagging thought he should never have sent his friend here alone. Clouds billowed up over the high stones, growing blacker as they covered the sinking sun. Okay, pause. Oh, hang on, snooze. Oh, you were so lucky. That ad was going to start in 3 seconds. Oh my god. Thank you for the follow. Oh my god. And thank you for the raid. I just snoozed that twice. This is a second raid in 10 minutes. You guys are crazy. God damn. Hold up. I have to give you a shout out if I can. I don't know if it's off cooldown yet, but I'll try. Give me a second. There we go. I got it. I was able to. Hi, welcome in. Thank you for the raid. How is your stream? You're re-listening to the Warrior Cats books and you absolutely love them. I am doing the entire book series. I do 5 chapters every Friday. This is book 2. Did art, but you also do like ASMR. Well, I think my personal opinion, art can be a category that you can also use ASMR with. So it's pretty similar, relaxing wise. Just saying hi, I'm dizzy about to pass. Oh, Batman, go get some sleep. I know it's late in other places. I'm in PST, so it's not as late as it is for people on the East Coast because I live on the West Coast. But yeah, Panda, if you need to raid and run and get some rest, that is perfectly fine. I was resisting saying whoa because your model's yeah, I don't know what it is, but people like this model, and I have like I did make a couple of toggles for it. Like I can put my pot up. I have like made stuff with this. I have like the comically large bow. This ad does not want to leave me alone. I have snoozed it twice now. So, that ad is incoming. It does not want to leave me alone. It's gonna be in 3 minutes, but I wanted to snooze it so I could say hi to all of you before I end up going on my quick break. Yes, Panda, thank you for the lurk. Please get some rest if you need to, eat or hydrate. Comically large bow. Pesca has one too. Oh, you have a comically large bow? Okay. So, if you know what the comically large... Watch this. Normalize your comically large bow. I can literally just normalize it. Hey, yo. You had me at comically large. Yes, I love it. It's great. I have it as a redeem. I also... It's the eyes? You like the eyes? Hold up. The eyes actually have breathing. If I stay still, you can see it. And also the fur has breathing. It's all different layers. About to run away giggling. Yes, these are actually amber eyes. And when I was just reading that line in the book, I was thinking like how my fox model actually has the amber eyes. But the ad is going to start in about a minute. If you guys have not already, make sure that you turn down the volume so you don't get spooked. Thank you for the follow. I hope you have a nice sleep too. You really should rest, man. But I did this model's art, and I also did the rigging for it. I actually did it all on stream too. It was a goal of mine when I was trying to raise money for my cat's vet bill, and rigging it on stream was one of the goals. But yeah. Alright, no problem. Have fun, have a nice rest. And the ad is going to start, so I am going to take a quick break and stretch and let my voice relax, since the book does take quite a toll on my voice over time. I will see you guys after the ads, okay? If you do stick around, thank you. If not, no problem. for those of you that are not in the ad break right now, I am going to start reading again. But holy, you're so silly. Why would you show them how I'm fishing? How would you show that I'm fishing? Yeah, I don't know who all got caught in it, but it does say that it ends in about 45 seconds. I went and used the restroom real fast, and I tried to find my spot because a little bit overwhelming to have 2 raids in about 10 minutes. So I was spooked a little bit. I lost my spot in reading. I'm like, God, I need to find my spot in the book again. I am actually sitting up straight. Holy God damn it! Alright, let's go ahead and get back into the reading portion, shall we? Yeah, if you guys want to fish, it is just ! Fish. There's actually a leaderboard and there's stuff that you can catch. It's pretty cool. I also take suggestions for any items that you want to see in the fish pool. I do have a Discord, so if you guys want to join the Discord and make the suggestions that way, you can. Alright, let's continue where we left off. Tallstar's voice sounded behind them. One whisker is right. I shall honor you in both our stories. You must keep going, he continued. We have a long journey ahead of us. As the cats prepared to move off, Fireheart padded over to Morningflower. She was busy licking her kit. Yeah, it was like as soon as I said that too. I kid you not. I do not usually get raids because I'm usually doing like a lot of chaotic stuff. And I use my other model and voice. I just do this voice for the ASMR Friday. Is he alright? Fireheart asked. Oh yes, answered Morningflower. What about you? Asked Fireheart. Morningflower didn't answer. Fireheart turned to a Grey Queen who answered his unspoken question. Don't worry, she meowed. I'll take the kit next. Thank you for the follow. You mind if I just call you Swash? I end up shortening everyone's names to like have it easier said and memorize. Swash is perfect. That's what everyone. Oh, alright. You might hear me slurred a little bit. I have like an auditory processing issue since I was young, so like W's are a little bit like a slur for me. The clan followed the hedgerow along the thunder path before turning away to join the track through the woods. The only reason it has ink is because Swash is taken. That's usually how it goes on Twitch. Believe it or not, my name's available everywhere. It's just a shorthand version of my pen name. The scents here seemed to soothe the WindClan cats, but the journey had taken its toll. They were traveling slower than ever, and when they reached the fence at the far side, it took all Fireheart's energy and strength to help the weakest cats over. The sun had passed its highest point by the time Fireheart spotted the two-leg place in the distance. I did backtrack a little bit because of the raids. He sniffed the air hopefully, but there was still no scent of Ravenpaw. Fireheart felt a stab of grief and tried to ignore the nagging thought he should never have sent his friend here alone. Clouds billowed up over Highstones, growing blacker as they covered the stinking sun. Why did I say stinking? I need to go back to school. I can't read. It's supposed to be stinking. Oh, thank you. You would probably freak out when you hear the other one if you show up on a non-Friday. A cold wind ruffled the cat's fur, bringing the first drops of rain. I kid you not, I'm usually chaotic. That's why I put chaotic vibes in the title. It's a warning and a promise. Fireheart looked at the WindClan cats. There was no way they could travel through a long, wet night. Yes, fox. Fox is my favorite animal. And yes, they are chaotic. They yip, they bark, they scream, and they laugh. He was tired too, and for the first time since he'd eaten Yellowfing's herbs, he was feeling the effects of hunger. A glance at Graystripe told him that his friend felt the same way. The big gray warrior's tail drooped, and his ears were flattened against the spattering rain. Used to chaos, we're our chaotic bunch, except ASMR. Even then, it can out of hand. Yeah, I know. I have actually tried to do some ASMR with a couple of my buddies, and it gets interesting, especially when they have Andrek involved. If you don't know who I'm talking about because you're new to my community, I have a friend called Owampus who is gender fluid and has 2 models as well. And their friend is Andrek, and they're both ASMR artists mainly, and a little bit sus. Tall Star, Fireheart echoed. Perhaps we should stop soon and shelter for the night. Yeah. Hold up. I am going to do this. Hold on. I want to do this. You guys, if you like ASMR, since they mostly do it and they're my buddy, I'm going to go ahead and shout them out as well. They're gonna ask me what the fuck I'm doing, and you guys are going to answer this: chaos. Get wrecked, Wampus. Not really, but seriously, get wrecked. The WindClan leader stopped and waited while Fireheart caught up with him. I agree, he meowed. There's a ditch here. We can shelter in that until sunrise. Yes, chaos shall reign. Graystripe and Fireheart exchanged glances. We might be better sheltering in the hedgerow, Fireheart suggested. There are rats in these ditches. Tossar nodded. Very well. He turned his clan and announced that they would be spending the night here. The queens and elders flopped down at once, despite the rain, while the warriors and apprentices gathered to discuss the hunting patrols. The reason why they're not bothered by the rain is because they were in a damp tunnel, which is actually an irrigation ditch that they didn't realize. Fireheart and Graystripe joined them. I don't know how good the hunting will be here, Fireheart meowed. There are too many 2 legs. Graystripe's stomach growled as if in agreement. The other warriors turned to him with amused but sympathetic eyes. Then they froze as the grass behind them rustled. The WindClan warriors bristled and arched their backs, unsheathing sharp claws. But Fireheart and Graystripe turned their heads joyfully. The wind carried a scent as familiar as their own den. Ravenpaw, Fireheart gasped as the sleek black cat emerged from the long grass. Fireheart raced over to his old friend and nuzzled him. Thanks, StarClan, you're safe, he purred. He stepped back and studied Ravenpaw in surprise. What had happened to the skinny, scared black apprentice? This cat was plump and sleek, and his fur, usually so dull before, now shed the rain like a holy leaf. Firepaw, Ravenpaw meowed in delight. Fireheart, Graystripe corrected him. He stepped forwards and touched noses with the black cat. We're warriors now. I'm Graystripe. Do you know this cat? Snarled Deadfoot. The hostility in his voice made Fireheart flinch. He looked at the bristling WindClan cats and silently cursed himself for calling Ravenpaw's name out loud. He just hoped Tallstar's warriors had been too distracted to hear it. If WindClan mentioned it at a gathering, it would spread through the clan like a forest fire. Ravenpaw was supposed to be dead. Is he a loner? Asked one whisker. He can help us find food, Fireheart meowed quickly, glancing at Ravenpaw. The black cat nodded. I know all the best places to hunt around here, he meowed. His fur didn't even bristle beneath so many hostile gazes. How much has he changed? Fireheart thought. Why would a loner help us? Demanded Deadfoot. Lonuses have helped us before, Graystripe told him. Another loner once saved us from a rat attack near here. Ravenpaw stepped forward and bent his head respectfully as he addressed the WindClan warriors. Let me help you. I owe my life to Fireheart and Graystripe, and if they're traveling with you, then you must be friends. He lifted his eyes and let his gaze rest on the WindClan cats. They returned his stare, more weary now than hostile. The rain was falling harder, and, with their fur bedraggled, they looked skinnier than ever. I'll go and find Barley, Ravenpaw meowed. He will help, too. He turned and disappeared through the long grass. Tallstar's eyes burned with curiosity, but all he asked Fireheart was, can we trust him? Fireheart met Tallstar's gaze completely. Tallstar nodded to his warriors. They let the fur lie flat on their shoulders and settled down to wait. Fireheart was almost wet through to his skin when Ravenpaw appeared again. This time, Barley was with him. Fireheart greeted the black and white loner with a friendly mew. It was good to see him again. Barley took one look at the dripping cat and meowed. We need to find you some proper shelter. Follow me. Fireheart leapt forwards at once, glad to move his stiffening legs. Graystripe was right behind him, but the WindClan cats hung back, fear and suspicion showing in their eyes. Tallstar blinked at his clan. We have to trust him, he growled before turning to follow the loner. One by one, the WindClan cats fell in step behind their leader. Do you think something's up with the audio? Hang on. Let me try listening in and see if something's up with it. I don't hear anything. Could be your headphones. Oh. Yes, I have a 2-ear effect. So I have my microphone set to have a little bit more strength on the different ears depending on the side of the microphone I go to. not like a 100% good binaural, but it's the best I have. I was confused. I was like, is it my audio? And I'm like, I listened and I'm like, it's not that. And then you said the Warpy, and I'm like, oh, the binaural. Yes, it's watch. That's what happens when I go to the other side of the microphone and soft talkly right in front of it. And then I go to the front and then to the side. You can hear the difference. Does that make sense now? I only have one headphone in. Oh, yes. That's probably why. So when you're listening to ASMR specifically, they do suggest to wear both earpieces or have like a pair of headphones on. Or if you do not like to have both the channels open, you can actually set your headphones to combine the audios, and that should change the Warby effect that you're hearing. Every couple of pages, I tend to switch sides so I could have some comfort as well as change things up a little bit, because I don't want it to be all on one side. I thought there was something wrong on my end, but it's just that's just the microphone. That's the setting. There's the different settings on the Yeti. There is the normal one where it's one channel, and there's the second one that is front and back. That's for interview, and then the third one, which is the binaural, it's side to side. Your left ear appreciates it. Does your right ear not appreciate it? Does your right ear not like it very much? Don't have headphones. You don't have headphones for that. Okay, well, now you know what's up. Long lost earbud. Aww. If you had a third channel, you'd listen to it. Ayo. What kind of third channel are we talking about here? Is it the one that where I'm underneath you or above you? I'm so sorry. I had to. I totally just clipped that. I'm sorry. I told you I'm chaotic sometimes. Alright, continue with the reading. Tallstar blinked to his clan. We have to trust him. He growled before turning to follow the loner. One by one, the Wind Clan cats fell and slept behind their leader. This is an 18+ channel, so you are free to talk about anything as long as you don't go into the gory details of it. So you're free to be as much as a freak as you want, as long as you're respectful to others. Barley and Ravenpaw led them through the hedge into another field. In an overgrown corner, among the brambles and nettles, stood an abandoned two-leg nest. The walls were full of holes, where stones had fallen out and only half the roof was left. Yeah, I may have crossed the line that you were not expecting for a moment, because I've been so say-so this entire stream. But no, it's an 18+. The Winning Clan cats stared fearfully at it. "You won't get me in there," muttered one of the elders. "Two Legs never come here now," Barley reassured them. "It'll give us some shelter from the rain," urged Fireheart. One of the apprentices whispered loudly, "I'm not surprised he wants to hide in a two-leg nest. Once a kitty pet, always a kitty pet." Can't hear it everything. There's a thunderstorm here. Oh no. Oh no. Yusuna, you still have the job application name. Thank you for the check-in though, Yusuna. Stay safe, okay? Thunderstorm has been knocking out power supplies all over the place lately. I have had a brownout just yesterday, and that was during stream. It sucked. Fireheart bristled. He hadn't heard that insult for several moons, but the story that a kitty pet had joined a clan must have made rich gossip at any gathering. Of course Wind Clan would know. He whipped around and glared at the apprentice. You spent 2 moons living in a 2-leg tunnel. Does that make you a rat? The Wind Clan apprentice drew himself up, ruffling out his fur. But Graystripe stepped between them. Come on, we're just getting wetter the longer we stand out here. Tallstar meowed. We faced worse than a 2-leg shelter these past moons. One night here would do us no harm. The Wind Clan cats murmured nervously among themselves. They were clearly reluctant, but with a glance at Fireheart, Morningflower picked up her kit and padded into the 2-leg shelter. The Grey Queen followed after her, nudging her own kit forwards out of the rain. The other cats gradually followed until every cat was inside. Fireheart looked around the gloomy shelter. The ground was bare except for patches where the weeds had burrowed their way under the stone walls. The wind and rain found their way through the gaps in the walls and roof, but it was drier and more sheltered than anywhere outside. He watched the Wind Clan cats sniffing cautiously around as they began to settle themselves away from the dripping holes and drafty cracks. He glanced at Graystripe, relieved. Only Tallstar and Deadfoot remained on their paws. What about food? Asked Deadfoot. Barley spoke. You should all be resting, he meowed. Raven. Fireheart interrupted him before Barley could finish saying Ravenpaw's name out loud. Why don't you two show me and Graystripe the best places to hunt around here? Deadfoot and One Whisker will go with you. Meowed Tallstar. Fireheart couldn't decide if the Wind Clan leader still didn't trust these 2 strangers, or if he was determined to show his clan could look after itself. The 6 cats ventured back out into the rain. Hunting would be hard, but Fireheart was starving. Hunger always made him a better hunter. Tonight, the voles and mice wouldn't stand a chance. Just show me where they are, he meowed to Barley and Ravenpaw. The 2 cats led them into a small patch of woodland. Fireheart breathed in a lungful of familiar scent. Then he dropped into a hunting crouch and began to stalk into the ferns. When the hunting party returned, each cat carried a mouthful of fresh kill. The Wind Clan cats shared a feast with their new allies that night. Every cat, from the eldest to the youngest, ate their fill, then curled up together to share tongues in mutual grooming. While outside, the wind and rain lashed at the walls of the shelter. Hunger makes us all better hunters. Yeah, if you ever realize, when you are hungry, your senses get sharper. That is a natural instinct. Your fridge isn't an elusive creature. Are you sure? Sometimes it feels like it is. There is going to be another ad break in 3 minutes. So remember to lower your volume if you have not already. The ads are usually more loud than the stream itself. I will take another short break after that because of constantly talking. It does put As darkness settled in, Barley got to his paws. "I'm off. Rats to catch," he meowed. Fireheart stood and touched the loner's nose with his own. "Thank you again," he purred. "This is the second time you've helped us." "Thanks for sending Ravenpaw to me," replied Barley. "He's turning into a fine ratter, and it's good to share a meal with a fellow cat from time to time." "Is he happy here?" asked Fireheart. "Ask him yourself," meowed Barley. And with that, he turned and disappeared into the night. Fireheart padded over to Tallstar, who was washing his paws. Fireheart couldn't help noticing how swollen and painful they looked. "We'll take turns to keep watch tonight if you'd like," he offered, flicking his head towards Graystripe and Ravenpaw. Tallstar looked up at him gratefully, exhaustion clouding his eyes. "Thank you," he meowed. Fireheart blinked respectfully at the WindClan leader and went to tell Ravenpaw and Graystripe. His offer to Tallstar had been genuine, but it also meant he could be alone with his two friends. He was desperate to get Ravenpaw out of earshot of the WindClan cats and ask him what he had been up to. Graystripe and Ravenpaw bounded over to his side as soon as he called them. Fireheart led them into a corner of the two-leg nest, close enough to the entrance for them to keep watch, but far enough away from the other cats they could talk in private. "So what happened after we left you?" he asked Ravenpaw as soon as the three friends had settled down. "I headed straight across the WindClan territory, like you suggested." "What about the two-legged dogs?" Graystripe put in. "Were they loose?" Alright, you guys, the ad should have started. I will take my quick break, and I will be right back after I've done some stretching. Holy, you sussy pocket, what are you doing when I'm AFK? You're putting the maid stuff on me, I see how it is. Oh, thank you, Jorg, for the follow. I don't know if you can hear me, but thank you. Also, thank you for telling me to have a good break. I actually went and got myself one of my honey Arizona green teas, because it actually helps soothe my throat a bit when I'm talking so much. Very dapper, demure even. Oh my god. I have a tie as well. But it is kind of funny. Yeah, I drink all of my beverages cold because hot beverages mess with me. You know how they say, oh, you should take a nice hot coffee in the morning to take a shit? No, that does not make me take a shit. That actually makes me have a lot of pain and nothing else. People really like tea all of a sudden. Maybe you never noticed before. No, there's actually a lot of people that like tea. Coffee just has a lot of sugar in it usually, but tea, you can use less sugar because coffee's generally bitter. Alright, everyone should be back now from the break. What about the two-legged dogs Greystripe put in? Were they loose? Yes, but it was easy to avoid them, Ravenpaw told him. Fireheart was surprised by how casually his friend dismissed the dogs. Easy? He echoed. I could smell them from a long way off. I just waited until dawn, and once the dogs were tied up again, we tracked down Barley. He's been great. I think he likes having me around. Ravenpaw's expression suddenly clouded. Which is more than Tigerclaw ever did. He meowed bitterly. What did you tell him? Oh yeah, people in the UK really like tea. It's not as a favorite beverage as it is over like there compared to the US. Like over there, it's their favorite beverage. Over here in the US, it's soda. Now you alternate between it and coffee in the mornings. Yes. So tea is one of the few things I will actually drink hot, because it actually does help you when you're sick if you drink hot tea. My favorite soda, I guess it would be Barg's root beer, or possibly Coca-Cola vanilla cherry. It's an acquired taste, but I like it. Barg says, but you know, there's actually root beers out there that have alcohol content. The one that I drink is called Not Your Father's Root Beer, and it's a root beer that's an alcoholic one. Yeah. Oh, you've had them? They are good. You know, there is actually something from another country that I have never really seen in the United States, and that is alcoholic candies. The only time I have ever gotten to have one is when I visited Scotland. And that would be like the Lindor truffles, but it had like alcohol content in it. Which is weird why we don't have them here. I mean, I can understand why they don't usually do it, because adults here don't typically have candy as much. But at the same time, I would really like to be able to get them domestically. Problem with them that they are so sweet, it was hard to drink many of them. Yeah. They are sweet. I like sweet things. I like somewhat bitter things when I'm in the mood for it. But I generally like sweet drinks. See, candy with, yeah. Candy with liquor. And it tasted great. I don't understand why we don't do it in America, because technically most of the alcohol content gets burned out in the process of making it. I mean, they allow you to have beer battered, like fish sticks and stuff, so I don't understand that. Liquor. I hardly knew her. Which is more than Tigerclaw ever did, he meowed bitterly. What did you tell him? Fireheart recognized the hunted look in Ravenpaw's eyes as he spoke about his old mentor. He said you'd been killed by ShadowClan patrol, he answered quickly. 2 WindClan apprentices were wandering towards them. Fireheart twitched his ears to warn his friends they had an audience. Alcoholic chocolate. It really depends on the brand. Some of them get it right, some of them don't. Oh yes, meowed Ravenpaw, raising his voice. We loners eat clan apprentices whenever we can catch one. The WindClan apprentices shot him a scornful look. You don't scare us, they mewed. Really? Purred Ravenpaw. Well, I guess your meat would be tough and stringy anyway. How come you're such good friends with the loner? One apprentice asked Fireheart. A wise warrior makes friends wherever he can. Fireheart replied, if it weren't for this loner, we'd still be cold and hungry instead of dry and well-fed. He narrowed his eyes in warning, and the princesses slunk away. So ThunderClan thinks I'm dead, meowed Ravenpaw when they had gone. He gazed down at his paws. Well, it's probably for the best. He lifted his eyes and looked at Fireheart and Graystripe. I'm glad I've seen you again, he meowed warmly. Fireheart purred, and Graystripe prodded his friend affectionately with a hind paw. But you look tired, Ravenpaw continued. You should get some sleep. I'll keep watch tonight. I can rest tomorrow. He stood up and gently licked each of his old friends on the head. Then he padded to the entrance of the shelter, sat down, and stared out into the rain. Fireheart looked at Graystripe. Are you tired? Exhausted, admitted Graystripe. The Grey Warrior rested his head on his paws and closed his eyes. Fireheart took a final look at Ravenpaw sitting alone in the entrance. He knew now that he had made the right decision in helping Ravenpaw to leave ThunderClan. Perhaps Bluestar had been right when she'd said Ravenpaw would be better off without the clan. Each cat has his own destiny. He thought Ravenpaw was happy, and that was all that mattered. I have not gotten to try many chocolates, so I can't really say anything. I have not had the chance. I am not quite the connoisseur of liquor chocolates, but the ones that I did taste with the Lindor chocolates was pretty good. And we have the regular Lindors here in America, so I could taste the difference. Liqueur. When Fireheart woke, Ravenpaw was gone. It was past dawn. The gray rain clouds began to drift away, tinged by the rosy glow of the rising sun. They looked like blossoms floating across the pond. Fireheart stared through a gap in the roof and watched them as the WindClan cats stirred and helped themselves to the leftovers of last night's catch. A short-tailed brown tom joined Fireheart and gazed up at the clouds with him. Fireheart jumped as a curious yell suddenly escaped the brown tom's throat. The noise brought the other WindClan cats crowding around them, murmuring and anxious. What is it, Barkface? Prompted Morningflower. Has StarClan spoken to you? Fireheart realized that this Tom must be WindClan's medicine cat. He tensed instinctively at the sight of Barkface's bristling fur. The clouds are stained with blood, rasped Barkface, his eyes wide and glazed. It is a sign from our ancestors there is trouble ahead. This day shall bring an unnecessary death. That is the end of chapter 6, the first chapter that I am doing this stream. We are going to Chapter 10. That is actually a long chapter. I think that was the longest chapter I've read in both book 1 and 2. Chapter 7. For a moment, none of the cats moved or spoke. Then Deadfoot growled. Any of the clans could see those clouds. We can't be sure that the message is for us. Let's hear it for chapter 6, Ayo. So many memories in chapter 6. 2 raids, a bunch of mistakes, fucking breaks, talking smack to chat. Yeah, I find readings, like, it depends on if you're interested in the book itself. This is a good series. I read it when I was in high school. I read the first 3 books that I could get my hands on. So I actually have no clue what the books are about again because it's been so long. Hopeful news spread through the Wind Clan. Tallstar surveyed his clan and meowed calmly. Whatever Star Clan has planned for us, today we return to our home. The 3rd channel dropped in chapter 6. What a wild time, Ayo. 3rd channel, where I'm below, you are above you, Ayo. I can smell more rain in the air. It's time we set off. Fireheart felt relieved at the leader's practical tone. The last thing they needed was hysteria at an ominous prophecy. Ayo. Tallstar led the way out into the chilly morning air. Fireheart and Greystripe followed. The Wind Clan leader was right. The wind carried the promise of more rain, and soon. Shall we scout ahead? Fireheart offered. Yes, please, replied Tallstar. Let me know if you see dogs, 2-legs, or rats. My clan is stronger this morning. But we had trouble with dogs on the way out. We must stay alert. Fireheart could see from the worried look in the leader's eyes that Barkface's warning had disturbed him more than his confident words suggested. His clan might be stronger, but it was in no state to fight off attackers. Oh yeah, if you didn't know that, my entire series is actually book form. People are surprised I have all the books. Yeah. Fireheart raced away with Greystripe at his heels. They took turns going back to the clan, telling Tallstar that the way ahead was clear, or warning him to stay back while a 2-leg passed by with a dog. The Wind Clan cats wordlessly obeyed their leader, plodding on heavy paws in spite of their night's rest. Yeah, novel. Yeah, novel. Paper. By sun high, dark clouds had gathered once more, and the first drops of rain were beginning to fall. The ground began to slope upwards, and when Fireheart pushed his way through the hedge, he recognized the red dirt track that led away from the 2-leg territory and into Wind Clan's hunting grounds. His spirit soared, and he met Greystripe's gaze with a look of triumph. Nearly there. The muffled tramp paw steps sounded behind the hedge. Fireheart spun around and darted back to the field. The Wind Clan cats had caught up with them. Deadfoot was at the head of the group. He looked startled by Fireheart's sudden appearance. This way, Fireheart meowed, showing him the gap through the dripping leaves. He was eager to see Wind Clan's reaction when they glimpsed the uplands on the other side. With Deadfoot leading, the cat began to file slowly through. Fireheart followed close behind the last cat, but Deadfoot and 2 warriors had already leaped the ditch and crossed the track and were pushing into the hedgerow on the other side. Their pace had quickened. They clearly knew where they were. Fireheart had to sprint to catch up. He followed them through the hedge and kept up with them as they bounded towards the long slope that led to the uplands of their home. At the foot of the slope, Deadfoot and his warriors paused to wait for the rest of the clan. They closed their eyes against the rain, but held their heads high. I'm getting a little gravelly. Hang on. I'm gonna take some sip of tea. They closed their eyes against the rain, but held their heads high. Fireheart could see their chests rising and falling as they breathed in the familiar scents sweeping from the uplands. Fireheart ran back to the rest of the clan, looking for Morningflower. He spotted her walking beside a tabby warrior who held her kit in his mouth. Every few steps, the Torchshell Queen stretched her head to sniff the wet little bundle. It would not be long now before she could settle her kit into the Windclan nursery. Fireheart fell into step beside Greystripe at the rear. They glanced happily at each other, but didn't speak. Me? Soothing. Too caught up in Windclan's excitement at coming home. Even the elders were moving swiftly now, keeping their bodies low and their eyes narrowed against the rain. As the clan joined Bedford at the foot of the slope, the deputy got to his paws, and Tallstar took the lead. Without pausing, Tallstar began to follow a narrow sheep trail through the rough grass and heather. Switching sides. Look, they make some cat puns in this book. You know they are. I am pausing. As the clan neared the top, some of the warriors raced ahead again. At the brow of the hill, they made proud silhouettes against the stormy sky. While the wind sent ripples through their fur, ahead stretched the old hunting grounds. Suddenly, two apprentices charged past Fireheart and bounded away into the familiar heather. Tallstar stiffened. "Wait," he yelled. "There might be hunting parties from the other clans here." As soon as they heard him, the apprentices skidded to a halt and pelted back to join the clan, their eyes still bright with exhilaration. From a rock-strewn ridge, Fireheart saw the dip in the ground that concealed Windclan's camp. With a purr of delight, Morningflower took her kit from the mouth of the tabby warrior and hurried towards the hollow. Tallstar flicked his tail, and the three warriors raced forward to escort her as she disappeared over the edge and down into the camp. The Windclan leader paused, while the rest of his clan rushed into the sheltering bushes below. He turned to Fireheart and Greystripe, his eyes shining. Yeah. A purr of delight. "My clan is grateful for your help," he meowed. "You have both proved you are warriors worthy of StarClan, and Windclan has returned to its rightful home. It is time for you to return to yours." You didn't know I could do that, did you? Fireheart felt a pang of disappointment. He wanted to see Morningflower settled into the nursery with her kit, but Tallstar was right. There was no need for them to stay here any longer. Yeah, I can roll my R's as well. Bravo. Tallstar spoke again. There may be hostile hunting parties around. One Whisker and Deadfoot will escort you to Four Trees. Fireheart bowed his head. Thank you, Tallstar. Tallstar called to his warriors and gave them their orders. Oh, German, huh? Fun fact, my Discord admin is German. I don't speak it though. Tallstar called to his warriors and gave them their orders. Then he turned his tired eyes once more to Fireheart. You have served WindClan well. Tell Bluestar that WindClan would not forget it was ThunderClan who brought them home. They're all over the place. Ayo. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you now, I have no clue how to say German words. Deadfoot padded away in the direction of Four Trees. Fireheart and Graystripe walked after him with One Whisker at their side. They stayed close together as they followed a narrow path through a solid mass of gorse that provided good shelter against the rain. I will tell you though, my Discord admin has the best villager voice for the Minecraft villagers. The kind of sound. I think it's because it's like a nasal sound, and German has a lot of nasal to it. If you pretend you're very angry before you try it out. Funny thing is I have a wheel spin, and I also do angry cat sounds when it lands on it. It's literally funny. Suddenly, One Whisker stopped and sniffed the air. Rabbit, he called out joyfully before charging away into the gorse. Deadfoot stopped and waited. Fireheart could see a glint in the deputy's tired eyes. There was a rush of paw steps in the distance, and the rustle of gorse, then silence. The or is it ish? I have no clue how to pronounce the shit in German. It's either ish or ish. You're doing English CH? Or is it ich? Is it the guttural ich? I do speak English as my main language, so you'd have to hear it. Yeah, I probably would. I don't really get to hear a lot of German despite my admin being German. They actually speak very, very fluent English as well. Like saying he, but you're a snake. Ich. This is the best I got. I'm sorry. Ooh, slippery little snaky. A moment later, One Whisker returned with a large rabbit dangling from his jaws. Graystripe leaned towards Fireheart, a little better than the RiverClan warriors met. Fireheart purred in agreement. One Whisker dropped the fresh kill on the ground, and he went hungry. There is an ad in 3 minutes. Please remember to lower your volume if you have not already. Thank you. They ate the rabbit gratefully. When he'd eaten his share, Fireheart sat up and licked his lips. He felt refreshed by the meal, but a weary coldness was beginning to nag at his bones, and his paws felt sore. If he and Graystripe followed the route they'd come, past 4 trees, they'd still had a long way to go. What if they took a shortcut through RiverClan's hunting grounds? After all, they were on a mission that had been agreed to, at the gathering at least, by all the clans. Could a RiverClan really object if they passed through their territory? It wasn't as if they were going to steal prey. Fireheart looked around at his companions and meowed tentatively. You know, it'd be quicker if we followed the river. Graystripe looked up from washing his paw, but that would mean crossing into RiverClan territory. We could follow the gorge, Fireheart explained. RiverClan doesn't hunt there. It's too steep for them to get down to the river. Graystripe gently rested a damp paw on the ground. Even my claws ache, he murmured. I wouldn't mind taking a shorter route. He turned his yellow eyes hopefully to the WindClan deputy. Deadfoot looked thoughtful. Talsor ordered us to travel with you. To 4 trees, he meowed. If you don't want to come with us, we'll understand, Fireheart answered quickly. We'll only be in RiverClan territory for a blink. I can't see us meeting any trouble. No, it's the Shadow Clan that was a bunch of jerks in book 1. RiverClan is just greedy after, being able to hunt there and having the problems with Shadow Clan. There's also a little snippet of information of why RiverClan needs to hunt in WindClan's territory. And the reason for that is that humans have started fishing in the river and taking most of the fish. So, before they used to be able to get fattened on the fish. But since humans are hunting in the river, and obviously not doing it the proper way, they're reducing the numbers too much. So, they have to hunt in WindClan territory, and that's why they're trying to fight WindClan. But yeah, that's the little backstory there. Treated like this is our land, so the kill's ours. Well, they have a valid reason for the need, but yeah, both Shadow Clan and WindClan have problems with humans, and that's why they got aggressive and greedy. But Shadow Clan had just had a very, very bad leader. Graystripe nodded, but Deadfoot shook his head. We couldn't let you go into RiverClan territory alone, he meowed. You're exhausted. If you did meet trouble, you're in no state to deal with it. We won't meet anyone. Fireheart had convinced himself and had determined to convince Deadfoot too. I have a bad feeling about this. Deadfoot gazed at him with her wise old eyes. If we did go that way, he amused, it would let RiverClan know that WindClan is back. Fireheart pricked his ears in understanding, and once they've smelled fresh WindClan scent, they might not be so keen to come rabbit hunting in their territory again. One whisker licked the traces of fresh kill from his lips and remarked, It'll mean we'll be home before moonrise. You just want to make sure you get a good nest in your den, Deadfoot retorted. His voice was stern, but there was a good-natured gleam in his eye. Then we're going through RiverClan territory? Fireheart asked. Yes, decided Deadfoot. He changed direction and led the cats along an old badger trail that took them away from the barren uplands. Soon they were in RiverClan's territory. Even though the wind and the rain, Fireheart could hear the roaring of the river as it crashed and thundered somewhere up ahead. The cats followed the trail towards the noise. The path shrank until it was little more than a narrow strip of grass from the very edge of the deep gorge. On one stretched upwards, steep and rocky. On the other, it plunged straight down. Fireheart could see the far side of the gorge only a few fox lengths away. The space looked tantalizingly narrow, and Fireheart wondered if he could leap the gap. Perhaps if he weren't so tired and hungry. His paws prickled with fear at the thought of falling, but he couldn't resist peering over the side. Beneath his paws, the ground dropped away in a sheer cliff. Ferns clung to tiny ledges, the leaves glistening, not from rain, but the spray of swollen torrent that foamed at the bottom of the gorge. Hey yo. Oh yeah, I bet you love a lot of tantalizing spaces. Fireheart pulled back from the edge, the fur along his spine bristling with fear. Ahead of him, Deadfoot, One Whisker, and Graystripe plodded steadily on. Heads down, they would have to follow this path until they could cut away from it. Through the small strip of the forest that stood between them and ThunderClan territory. Fireheart stumbled as he hurried to catch up. Deadfoot's ears were pricked and his tail flattened so that it almost dragged along the ground. One Whisker was clearly nervous too. He kept looking sharply up at the slopes beside them as if he could hear something. Fireheart could hear nothing but the roaring of the river. He glanced anxiously over his shoulder, his eyes darting side from side. The Wingpan cat's weariness was making him uneasy. The steep slope began to flatten out until they could move further away from the cliff's edge. The rain was still driving into their faces, and the darkening sky told Fireheart that the sun was setting. But it would be not long now before they reached the forest. There would be more shelter there. The thought of food and dry nests cheered Fireheart. Suddenly, a warning yell rumbled in Deadfoot's throat. Fireheart stiffened and tasted the air. A RiverClan patrol. A screech sounded from behind them, and the cat spun around to see 6 RiverClan warriors charging towards them. Fireheart's fur stood on end with horror. The deep gorge with its raging waters was still dangerously close. A dark brown RiverClan cat landed on top of him. Fireheart rolled away from the gorge, kicking furiously with his back legs. He felt teeth bite into his shoulders and struggled under the weight of the hissing warrior. He scrabbled desperately on the sodden ground, trying to free himself. The RiverClan warrior raked aside with sharp claws. Fireheart twisted and bit into the fur of his attacker. He clamped his jaws tight and heard the warrior yell. But the other cat's claws only raked him more fiercely. This would be the last time he sat in RiverClan territory, hissed the brown Tom. Around him, Fireheart was aware of his companions struggling fiercely. He knew they were as exhausted as he was from the long trek. He could hear Graystripe yelling violently. One Whisker hissed with pain and rage. Then, from the forest behind them, another sound reached Fireheart's ears. It was full of fury, yet it filled Fireheart with a surge of hope. Tiger Claw's war cry. Fireheart smelled the fast-approaching battle scent of the ThunderClan patrol. Tiger Claw, Willowpelt, Whitestorm, and Sandpaw. Yowling and spitting. Yeah, you noticed the ear swap, Gigi. The ThunderClan cats leaped into the fray. The brown Tom released Fireheart, and he quickly struggled to his paws. He watched as Tiger Claw pinned a gray tabby Tom to the ground, giving a warning bite to the Tom's hind leg. The tom ran screeching away into the bushes. Tiger Claw whipped around and fixed his pale eyes on Leopard Fur. The mounted RiverClan deputy was wrestling with Deadfoot. The lame warrior was no match for a ferocious RiverClan she-cat. Fireheart prepared to leap to the rescue. But Tiger Claw was ahead of him. The dark warrior dived forward and grabbed Leopard Fur's wide shoulders. With a mighty yell, he hauled her off, the scrawny WindClan deputy. Fireheart heard a vicious squeal behind him. He spun around to see Sandpaw locked in battle with another RiverClan she-cat. Twisting and tussling, the pair rolled over and over on wet grass, spitting and clawing at each other fiercely. Fireheart gasped. They were rolling towards the rocky edge of the gorge. One more roll and they would be over the side. Fireheart sprang. With a mighty swipe, he bundled the RiverClan warrior off Sandpaw and away from the edge. Sandpaw skidded away, closer to the drop. Fireheart lunged forward and grabbed her by the scruff of her neck with his teeth. She squealed with rage as he dragged her away from the gorge, her paws scrabbling on the muddy ground. She sprang to her paws as soon as he stopped and hissed at Fireheart, her eyes burning with fury. I can win my own battles without your help. Fireheart opened his mouth to explain, but a terrible howl made them both turn their heads. Graystripe was leaning perilously over the edge of the gorge, his hind legs straining. Beside him, Fireheart glimpsed a white paw clutching at the edge. Graystripe leaned down with his mouth open, trying to get a grip on the paw, but it disappeared out of sight in the terrifying rush. Graystripe cried out after it, his wail echoing along the gorge. All cats stopped fighting at the sound of Graystripe's agonized call. Fireheart froze, panting with shock and exhaustion. The RiverClan cats scrambled to the edge of the gorge. Slowly, Fireheart followed them and looked over the side, far below. Through the deafening spray, he saw the dark head of a RiverClan warrior sink beneath the foaming water. Lechie! Do you think you did well? Welcome in, welcome back. With a cold feeling of horror, Fireheart recalled the words of the WindClan medicine cat. This day shall bring an unnecessary death. He came back at an interesting time. That was the end of chapter 7. And a possible death of a RiverClan warrior. A she-cat. After all that effort of him trying to prevent them from going over the edge, we knew someone was going to. He deserved at least a 40-50. I hope so. That professor stinks. Should have been there for chapter 6. Steamy ale. Don't tell Lechie your dirty secrets. Lechie will lock them away and then probably send you some Lechie likes to send a lot of her favorite characters to me in DMs. And, you know, Love in Deep Space, yes. Beware, if you befriend the Lechie, you're going to see a lot of Love in Deep Space characters in your DMs. Hey, yo. What do you mean, hey? Deep Space love. Hey, yo. Yeah, it's deep in space. Some of those interactions that I've seen. True love only exists in a vacuum. Ayo. certain things inside of a vacuum. Anyway, chapter 8. Leopard Fur lifted her head and yowled into the wind. White Claw, no! Graystripe scrambled backwards until all 4 paws were safe on the ground. His wet fur was bristling and his eyes were wide with shock. Hey, everything's wild. I tried to grab him. He just lost his footing. I didn't mean to. The words stumbled out breathlessly. Fireheart bounded across to his friend and pressed his nose into his flank for comfort, but Graystripe backed blindly away. Ayo, the table? You mean the bear? One by one, the other cats turned away from the edge and looked at Graystripe. The RiverClan cats' eyes were narrowed with fury, their shoulders tense. Willowpout and Whitestorm moved instinctively towards Graystripe, taking up defensive positions on either side of him. The dining table was the bear, right? Oh, you don't know what a bear means? It's a type of man. Leopard Fur growled deep in her throat, but it was warning to her own cats. They were to stay back. The RiverClan deputies stared Tiger Claw straight in the eye. This has gone beyond a border fight, she murmured. We shall return to our clan. It has become a matter to settle at another time and in a different way. You've been called a hill. Built like a bear. Tiger Claw defiantly returned Leopard Fur's stare. That was a tongue twister. That's interesting for someone to call you, though, just outright. He showed no fear, but merely gave the smallest of nods. Leopard Fur flicked the tip of her tail, then turned and padded away. The RiverClan cats followed her, and the whole patrol disappeared into the bushes. Leopard Fur's menacing words made Fireheart shiver. A sense of foreboding settled over his heart like a cold shadow as he realized that this battle might have started a war. We should leave, meowed Deadfoot, limping forwards. Ah, I see. Yeah, that's typically how you get educated. Your 2 young warriors served us well, and my clan thanks you. But the formal words of gratitude sounded hollow after the tragedy they had just witnessed. Tiger Claw nodded, and the 2 WindClan warriors began to head back towards their own territory. Fireheart meowed a quiet farewell to One Whisker as he passed. One Whisker glanced briefly at him and walked on. Prefer being the fox's prey, yo. That's sus to say. You want me to sink my teeth into you? Fireheart noticed. Oh, did I skip a second? Hang on. Tiger Claw nodded, and the 2 WindClan warriors began to head back towards their own territory. Fireheart meowed a quiet farewell to One Whisker as he passed. One Whisker glanced briefly at him and walked on. Ayo, henhouse, chicken, fresh kill, fresh dinner. Oh, I bite. Fireheart noticed that Sandpaw was standing at the edge of the gorge, staring down at the torrent below. Her paws seemed frozen to the ground, and her eyes remained fixed on the steep drop. Fireheart guessed she had realized how close she had come to sharing White Claw's fate. Fireheart started towards her, but Tiger Claw growled, "Follow me." Ayo. Hold on. You're talking about date everything, right? I'm gonna have to Google this now. I need a refresher. Yeah, the fucking bear. Yeah, that one. That's the bear. The tabby warrior charged away through the trees, and the rest of his patrol followed after him. But Fireheart hesitated beside Graystripe. "Come on," he urged. "You should keep up." Graystripe shrugged, his eyes dull and clouded with pain, and began to pat after the others, dragging his paws as if they were made of stone. Soon, the cats ahead of them were out of sight, but Fireheart was able to track them by their scent. Tiger Claw was leading them back towards ThunderClan territory, straight through RiverClan's strip of the forest. Fireheart guessed there was no need to worry about the RiverClan patrols right now. The damage had been done. It would be pointless to take the long way around by 4 trees. Tiger Claw had halted the patrol and was waiting for Fireheart and Graystripe at the border of ThunderClan's territory. "I thought I told you to follow me," he growled. "Graystripe was..." Fireheart began. "The sooner Graystripe gets back to camp, the better," interrupted Tiger Claw. Graystripe said nothing, but Fireheart bristled at the deputy's harsh tone. White Claw's death wasn't his fault. Tiger Claw turned away. "I know," he meowed, "but it's done. Come on, and this time, keep up." He leapt away, crossing the scent markers that bounded ThunderClan territory. Fireheart had been looking forward to this moment since leaving WindClan's den among the Thunderpaths. Harsh tongue, yeah. Did you know that cats have harsh tongues? They have the bristles. Now he hardly noticed as he pounded past the markers, keeping one eye on Graystripe. Yeah, that's actually so that they can clean their fur. The rain eased as they followed the familiar trail to the camp. When the patrol emerged from the gorse tunnel, some of the other clan cats bounded out of their dens. The tails had held high in greeting. It is like getting licked by sandpaper, I agree with you. My cat doesn't really lick that often. I don't like being licked, so my cat has kind of learned to not lick me that much. Lioness, it helps them tear the meat off. Ayo. Well, yeah, they got huge bristles. Well, a house cat has no need. When it comes to a larger cat, then yes, it is for meat. But for a house cat, in particular, the only thing they need it for is their fur. I have a fear of saliva. There's a story to that. I'll just let you ponder why. Did you find WindClan? Are they safe? Mousefur called. Fireheart nodded absently, but felt too hollow to reply. Mousefur's tail dropped. The other cats hung back at the edge of the clearing. The expressions on the faces of the returning cats told them that something serious had happened. "Come with me," Tiger Claw ordered Fireheart and Graystripe, leading them toward Blue Star's den. Fireheart kept close to Graystripe so that his fur brushed against his friend. Graystripe just padded onwards. either drawing closer to Fireheart or moving away. A warm mew welcomed them from the shadows, beyond the lichen. The three cats pushed their way into the snug cave. Oh, I don't like Skittles either. Chapter 9. Why Mabisuki doesn't like slime. Wow, you're using the chapters as markers. Wow. Welcome. Bluestar leaped up, purring. Did you find WindClan? Did he bring them back? Yes, Bluestar, Fireheart replied quietly. They are safe in their camp. Tallstar told me to thank you. Good, meowed Bluestar, her eyes darkened as she noticed Tigerclaw's grim expression. What has happened? Fireheart decided to return home through RiverClan territory, growled Tigerclaw. Graystripe looked up for the first time. It wasn't just Fireheart who decided, he began. Tigerclaw interrupted him. They were found by a RiverClan patrol. If my patrol hadn't heard their yelps in time, they wouldn't have made it home at all. So you rescued them, meowed Bluestar, relaxing. Thank you, Tigerclaw. It's not that simple, Tigerclaw snorted. They were fighting beside the gorge. A RiverClan warrior who was battling Graystripe fell over the edge. Fireheart noticed Graystripe flinch at Tigerclaw's words. Bluestar's eyes widened. Dead? She asked, looking horrified. Fireheart meowed quickly. It was an accident. Graystripe would never kill a cat over a border fight. I doubt Leopardfur sees it that way. Tigerclaw turned on Fireheart, his tail lashing from side to side. What were you thinking? Traveling through the RiverClan territory, and with WindClan cats. You've sent a message that we are their allies, which will only drive RiverClan and ShadowClan closer together. WindClan was with you in the RiverClan territory? Bluestar looked even more alarmed. Just 2 warriors. Tallstar gave us an escort home. We were tired, Fireheart murmured. You should not have been in RiverClan territory, Tigerclaw snarled, especially with WindClan cats. It wasn't an alliance. They were escorting us back home, Fireheart protested. Does RiverClan know that? Spat Tigerclaw. RiverClan knew we were going to find WindClan and bring them back. They agreed to it at the gathering. They shouldn't have attacked us. It was a special mission, like the journey to Highstones. They didn't agree to let you travel through their territory, spat Tigerclaw. You still don't understand clan ways, do you? Bluestar stood up. Her eyes flashed as she looked around at the 3 cats, but her voice was calm. You should not have entered RiverClan's hunting grounds. It was a dangerous thing to do. She looked sternly from Fireheart to Graystripe. Fireheart searched her eyes for a harsher reproach, but could find none. He felt torn between gratitude and guilt. He had caused a rift with the RiverClan that might threaten the safety of his clan for many moons. Bluestar went on, flicking her tail uneasily. At the same time, we did well to find WindClan and bring them back, but we would need to prepare ourselves for an attack from RiverClan. We need to start training more warriors. Fireheart and Graystripe. Frostfur tells me 2 of her kids are almost ready to begin their training. I want each of you to take a kit as your apprentice. The ad is about to start in 3 minutes, so please remember to reduce the volume and prepare for that. Yeah, I know that the page turn, sometimes it's really, it catches on my fingers. Fireheart felt stunned. What an honor. He couldn't believe Bluestar had suggested it, especially now. He glanced furtively at Tigerclaw. The deputy sat rigid as a rock. Watched other readings, not here, but I've never heard a single page. That's to do with the settings. Usually ASMR microphones pick up a lot, especially when it comes to Yetis, which are like $80, like the cheap version of the ASMR mics, because it has the setting. And it all depends on how they set it up in their streaming software. I actually have completely two different setups from my normal streaming versus my ASMR streaming. Catches on your fingers. I wish that was that page. Ayo. I have long limbs and fingers. He glanced furtively at Tigerclaw. The deputy sat rigid as a rock. Oh yeah, my legs are actually like 2/3 of my body length. My torso is short. Graystripe raised his head, but none of Frostfur's kits are 6 moons yet. It won't be long before they are. The divisions at the last gathering troubled me, and today, Bluestar's voice trailed off, and Fireheart noticed Graystripe look down at his paws once more. Tigerclaw was staring at Bluestar, his amber eyes hard. Wouldn't it be better to ask more experienced warriors like Longtail or Darkstripe to take on another apprentice? He asked. These two are hardly more than apprentices themselves. I did consider that, replied Bluestar, but Longtail will be busy enough with Swiftpaw, and Darkstripe is getting Bestpaw ready to become a full warrior. Alright, this time I'm going to take a quick break so I can get up and stretch, get something to drink, and maybe use the restroom. I will be right back. good company. Yes. My community tends to be a little bit sporadic and crazy. And if you like just random bullshittery, then joining the Discord is fine too. There's actually a lot of setup I have in the Discord. Like, I have an experience system and also a shop there. Eventually, I am going to add in the ability to buy like model art via the currency in the Discord. But like it's all free currency. It's just all based on like chatting and levels and stuff. I have it like all intertwined. I spent a lot of effort on it. The fun part is you can actually rob other players. Random bullshit is your middle name. Damn. Joined pretty immediately after. Yeah. Hold up, before I start reading again, let me go ahead and link you guys the Discord. Just so you can join if you wish to. Yeah. Yeah, you can actually check other people's balances, and if they have it open instead of in the bank, you can actually try thieving from them. But it does have a backlash if you fail. Keep that in mind. Alright, here we go. What about Running Wind? Tigerclaw asked. Running Wind is a fine hunter and a loyal warrior, Bluestar answered, but I don't think he has the patience for mentoring. ThunderClan has better use for his skills. And you think these two have got what it takes to train ThunderClan warriors? Tigerclaw meowed scornfully. Fireheart flinched. Tigerclaw was eyeing him alone as he spoke. Does he think a kitty pet is not fit to train clan-born cats? He wondered angrily. Hey yo, thank you guys for joining. You also will get an announcement when I go live, and also announcements if I have to cancel streams and everything. I don't typically fix the little schedule thing that's below my about page when I do that. And you will also get the live announcements when I go live on random days. That is not a part of my schedule. Bluestar stared back at her deputy. We shall find out. Don't forget, they brought WindClan home. And of course, Tigerclaw, she added. I am relying on you to oversee the training. Tigerclaw nodded, and Bluestar turned back to Fireheart and Graystripe. Get something to eat, she ordered, and rest. We'll have the naming ceremony for the kits at Moon High. Fireheart led Graystripe out of the den, leaving Tigerclaw behind with Bluestar. The rain had eased to a fine drizzle. I'm starving, yelled Fireheart. You could smell the warm scent of fresh kill in the clearing. Are you coming to get something to eat? Graystripe stood behind him, his eyes distant and sad. He slowly shook his head. I just want to sleep, he muttered. Once his stomach was full, Fireheart pushed his way into the warrior's den. Graystripe was curled and up in a ball, his head tucked beneath his paws. Fireheart's eyes felt heavy, but his fur was still soaked, and he forced himself to wash thoroughly before settling into his warm nest. Willowpelt woke Fireheart with a gentle prod. Time for the ceremony, she whispered. Fireheart lifted his head and blinked. Thanks, Willowpelt, he meowed as she ducked out of the den. He nudged Graystripe. Ceremony, he hissed, and stood up and stretched on his toes until his legs quivered. He was about to become a mentor. Excitement tingled in his paws. Graystripe stirred and uncurled slowly like an old cat. Suddenly, Fireheart's paws seemed to remember the long journey and began to ache again. At least the vein had stopped. In silence, Fireheart and Graystripe padded into the clearing. The moon shone above the trees, turning the wet branches silver. Well done for bringing the Wind Clan home. The cheery voice made Fireheart jump. He turned to see Halftail settling down beside him. You must come and share the story with the elders one night. Fireheart nodded absently and looked back into the clearing. Frostfur was already sitting below the high rock. The kid sat on either side of her. One smudgy gray and one ginger. The White Queen twisted her head and licked behind her ears. The little gray she-kid shook her head impatiently as her mother fussed over her. Once more, excitement made Fireheart's fur tingle. Beside him, Graystripe sat staring at the ground. Aren't you excited? Fireheart asked. Graystripe shrugged. Graystripe, Fireheart lowered his voice. Whiteclaw's death wasn't your fault. It was the worst place for an attack, and the RiverClan cat would have known that. Sandpaw nearly fell over the edge too, he added. He glanced at Sandpaw sitting nearby. Beside her, Dustpaw stared at Fireheart with a raw jealousy in his eyes. Fireheart couldn't blame him. He was about to become a mentor when Dustpaw hadn't even begun to be given his warrior name. But he flinched when Dustpaw leaned towards Sandpaw and whispered, loud enough for Fireheart to hear. I feel sorry for Fireheart's apprentice. Imagine a cat being trained by a kitty head. Oh yeah. I mean, if it was cooked jealousy, that is the form of seething with rage. But for once, Sandpaw didn't react. She just shot an uncomfortable glance at Fireheart. Fireheart turned back to Graystripe. Bluestar doesn't blame you, he insisted. She knows you're a good warrior. She's giving you your own apprentice. Graystripe lifted his eyes and replied bitterly, she's just doing it because ThunderClan needs more apprentices. And why do we need them? Because I've given RiverClan an excuse to hate us. Fireheart was shocked by the harshness in Graystripe's tone. Bluestar's meow summoned them before he could say anything more. Fireheart padded towards his clan leader, Graystripe trailing after him. When they reached the center of the clearing, Bluestar gazed around at the assembly of cats. This moon high, we gather to name 2 new apprentices. Come forward, you 2. The gray kit darted from her mother's side into the clearing, her fluffy tail held high and her blue eyes wide. The ginger kid came forwards more slowly. His ears were pricked, and he frowned with seriousness as he walked to the foot of the high rock. Fireheart's heart began to pound in his chest. Which one of these kids would he be given? He couldn't help feeling that the solemn-faced ginger kid would be easier to train. But there was something about the gray kid's clumsy enthusiasm that reminded him of himself when he had first joined the clan. From this day forward, Bluestar meowed, gazing down at the little gray kid, until she has earned her warrior name. This apprentice would be called Cinderpaw. Cinderpaw! The gray kid couldn't help mewing her new name aloud. A quietening hiss came from Frostfur, and Cinderpaw ducked her head apologetically. Fireheart meowed at Bluestar. You're ready for your first apprentice. Who begins Cinderpaw's training? Pride swelled in Fireheart's chest. Hi, Ren. Welcome in. You're fortunate, Fireheart, to have had more than one mentor. I expect you to pass on everything I taught you to this young apprentice. Fireheart suddenly began to feel a bit overwhelmed. Bluestar's words carried the weight of responsibility. He wasn't sure he was ready for her, and share with her the skills he learned from Tigerclaw and Lionheart. At the mention of Lionheart, Fireheart pictured the Golden Warrior looking down on him from Silverpelt with warm, encouraging eyes. He lifted his head and returned Bluestar's gaze as he steadily could. And this apprentice, Bluestar turned her gaze towards the ginger kid, will be known as Brackenpaw. Brackenpaw didn't move or make a sound. Graystripe, you will train Brackenpaw. Our lost friend Lionheart was your mentor. I hope that his skill and wisdom pass through you to your new apprentice. Graystripe lifted his head high. Hang on a second. Graystripe lifted his head high at Bluestar's words, and for a moment a gleam of pride showed in his eyes. He stepped forward and touched his new apprentice's nose with his own. Brackenpaw returned the touch politely. Only his eyes, which shone like stars, gave away the fact that this young cat was excited as his sister. Ayo, what are you sending me on Discord, man? Ayo? You sending me more mermen? If you guys don't know, Ren is a avid artist that loves to send me sketches of some characters from Fate Otomes and other games and stuff like that. Great artist. Make sure you guys give Ren a pat on the back if you ever get to see their art. As soon as Fireheart saw the pair touch noses, he realized he should have done the same. He stepped forwards quickly. Cinderpaw jerked her head up, and their noses collided painfully. Cinderpaw touched his nose again, this time less awkwardly. But Fireheart's eyes were beginning to water. He could see that Cinderpaw was trying to stop her whiskers from twitching with amusement, and a flush of embarrassment washed over him. I'm a mentor, he reminded himself. Remember, I said that I did the art of this model myself. It's not that you're bad at art, it takes practice. You can't let anyone put you down for saying your art is bad. Everyone is bad at art at some point. And technically, if you think about it, progress makes you better, but because of the good feedback you can get from other people who are actually, nice enough to not be assholes, you can actually learn from that and better yourself. We're all artists, really. Yes, everyone's an artist. In your own genre, you probably have something you're good at, and everyone has something that they at least relatively have some skill in. Artists do pattern recognition in this one. The pattern recognition in artists apparently are from the left hemisphere of your brain. When it comes to numbers, apparently it is your right hemisphere of your brain. Yes, I am a little bit of a nerd. Fireheart looked around at the rest of the clan. Every cat seemed to be nodding approvingly. his eyes found Tigerclaw. From the edge of the clearing, the deputy's amber gaze seemed to mock him. Fireheart looked hastily down at Cinderpaw, who was staring at him with undisguised pride. Fireheart's fur suddenly began to prickle. He wanted to be a great warrior and a good mentor more than anything else, but it seemed painfully clear that Tigerclaw was just waiting for him to fail. When I was in school, I actually had good math skills as well. I have found that looking at math as a memorization thing rather than something that is difficult makes it a lot easier to use and learn. Art is a creativity-based thing, and if you have a hard time being creative, then you can use methods to help with that, like looking up online for inspiration or talking to other people. It really depends on your outlook rather than your skills itself. Also, that was the end of chapter 8. We are now going to chapter 9. So we were on chapter 8 that whole time. I am going to take a quick look and see how many pages are left for this stream. Alright, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Damn. This is probably the longest 5 chapters. I am not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. That is damn. Alright. Hang on a second. Let me go back to the chapter. That's chapter 10. Chapter 9, there we go. You'd stay for 20. I mean, I'll be doing the ASMR on next Friday as well. And since we are doing 6 through 10 today, I will be doing 11 through 15 next Friday. I don't know what happened with me recently, but I couldn't make certain houses right in Minecraft where I thought I couldn't, but I just take several references, barely looking at them, and boom. Yeah, some people are a lot more strategic with it, and some people do better when it is just on the spur of the moment. I tend to be one of the people that is a spur of the moment kind of person. Although I can follow instructions, I do better hands-on, and I have ADHD and OCD, so it kind of makes it crazy. So perhaps maybe it's just your way of thinking. Maybe you're more of a hands-on type of person, so you'll be more strong in those kind of categories when it comes to being hands-on. So leaving it open like that is more of a hands-on type of person kind of deal, because it allows you to have your own creativity and also mess with it, hands-on, figure it out, get it done. I kind of do a little bit of both, but if I don't do both, then I kind of forget, and that's why I have to do that. Alright, you guys ready? Chapter 9. Fireheart woke to find Graystripe sitting beside him, hunched on his belly like a rabbit, his shoulders stiff and his fur fluffed out. Graystripe, he meowed quietly. Graystripe jumped. Are you okay? Graystripe sat up straight. I'm fine. Fireheart suspected that his friend's cheery mew wasn't heartfelt, but at least he was trying to be more positive. It looks cold, Fireheart meowed. Graystripe's words had billowed out in clouds. Fireheart was still snuggled down among the warm bodies of the other warriors. It is. Graystripe bent to lick his chest. Fireheart sat up and shook his head. The air tasted of frost. What are you going to do with Brackenpaw today? He asked. Show him the forest, answered Graystripe. I could bring Cinderpaw and we could travel together. It might be better if we travel alone today, answered Graystripe. Fireheart felt a bit hurt. They had been shown ThunderClan's hunting grounds together as apprentices. He would have liked to do it together again as mentors, but if Graystripe wanted to be by himself, then Fireheart could hardly blame him. Fine, he mewed. I'll see you later. We can share a mouse and compare apprentices. That'd be good, Graystripe meowed. Fireheart crept out of the den. The air outside was even colder. His breath swirled from his muzzle like smoke. He shivered, ruffling out his fur, and stretched one leg at a time. The ground under his paws felt like stone as he trotted over to the apprentice's den. Cinderpaw was fast asleep inside, a fluffy gray heap that rose and fell as she breathed. Cinderpaw, Fireheart called out quickly, and the little gray cat lifted her head at once. Fireheart backed out, and in a moment, Cinderpaw bounded from the den, wide awake and enthusiastic. Man, that cat wakes up quick. What are we doing today? She mewed, looking up at him with her ears pricked. I thought I'd take you on a tour of ThunderClan territory. Will we see the Thunderpath? Asked Cinderpaw eagerly. Yes, we will, Fireheart replied. He couldn't help thinking Cinderpaw would be disappointed when she saw what the dirty, stinking place was. Are you hungry? He asked, wondering if she should tell her to eat first. No, Cinderpaw shook her head. Oh, okay. We'll eat later, Fireheart meowed. Well, follow me. Yes, Fireheart. The young cat looked up at him, her eyes sparkling. The pang of sadness that had been lingering in Fireheart's stomach since talking with Graystripe was swept away by the warm feeling of pride. He turned and padded towards the camp entrance. Cinderpaw raced past him and charged through the gorse tunnel. Fireheart had to break into a run to catch up. I thought I said follow me, he called as she scrambled up the side of the ravine. But I want to see the view from the top, Cinderpaw protested. Fireheart leaped after her. He overtook her easily, climbed to the top, and sat washing a forepaw, keeping an eye on her as she scrambled from rock to rock. Ayo. By the time she reached the top of the camp ravine, she was panting, but no less enthusiastic. Look at the trees. They look like they're made from moonstone, she mewed breathlessly. So, if you didn't know, cats can actually get neutered or spayed at like 4 to 6 months. So technically they're an adult. A young adult. You don't want them reproducing, you want them as a pet. That's what happens. There is going to be an ad in 3 minutes. If you have the volume up, please make sure to turn it down so that you do not get spooked. Thank you. She was right. The trees below them sparkled white in the sunshine. Fireheart took a deep breath of cold air. Should try to save your energy, he warned. You have a long way to go today. Oh, yes, okay. Which way now? She kneaded the ground with impatient paws, ready to dart away into the woods. Follow me, meowed Fireheart. He narrowed his eyes playfully, and this time I do mean follow. He led the way to a trail along the edge of the ravine, into the sandy hollow where he had learned to hunt and fight. This is where most of our training sessions will be held, he explained. During Greenleaf, the trees that circled the clearing filtered the sunshine into a warm, dappled light. Now cold daylight streamed down onto the frozen red earth. The river ran here many moons ago. A stream still flows beyond that rise there, meowed Fireheart, pointing with his muzzle. It's dry most of the summer. That's where I caught my first prey. What did you catch? Cinderpaw didn't wait for an answer. Will the stream be frozen? Let's look and see if there's ice. She charged down into the hollow and headed towards the rise. You'll see it another time, Fireheart called, but Cinderpaw kept running, and Fireheart had to race after her. He stopped beside her at the top of the rise, and together they looked down at the stream. Ice had formed at the edges, but the speed of the water as it slid over its sandy bed had stopped it from freezing over completely. You wouldn't catch much there now, mewed Cinderpaw, except fish, maybe. The sight of the spot where he had caught his first prey filled Fireheart with happy memories. He watched Cinderpaw stand at the edge of the stream and crane her neck to peer into the black water. If I were you, I'd leave fishing to RiverClan. Fireheart warned her, if they'd like getting their fur wet, then let them. I prefer dry paws. Cinderpaw padded restlessly around in a circle. What now? Her excitement and his own apprentice memories filled Fireheart with energy. He bounded away, calling over his shoulder, "The owl tree!" Cinderpaw charged after him, her short, fluffy tail sticking out behind her. They crossed the stream over a fallen tree Fireheart had used many times before. There are stepping stones further down, but this is the quicker route. Be careful, though. Pale white trunk was stripped of its bark. It gets slippery when it's wet or icy. He let Cinderpaw cross first, keeping close behind in case she lost her paw hold. The stream wasn't particularly deep, what would be called as ice, and Cinderpaw was still too small to cope with the soaking. She crossed the log easily, and Fireheart felt a glow of pride as he watched his apprentice jump down onto the forest floor at the far end. Well done, he purred. Cinderpaw's eyes shone. Thanks, she mewed. Now, where's the owl tree? This way. Fireheart bounded away through the undergrowth. The ferns had turned brown since greenleaf. By the end of leaf fall, they'd be flattened by the rain and wind. But now they stood tall and crisp. Fireheart and Cinderpaw wove their way beneath the arching fronds. Ahead, a massive oak towered above the surrounding trees. Cinderpaw tipped her head back, looking for the top. Does an owl really live here? She mewed. Yes, replied Fireheart. Can you see the hole in the trunk up there? Cinderpaw narrowed her eyes to peer through the branches. How do you know it's not a squirrel hole? Smell, Fireheart told her. Cinderpaw sniffed loudly, but she shook her head, her eyes curious as she looked up at Fireheart. Yeah, no problem, Swash. Thank you for being here. I'll show you what squirrels smell like another time. Fireheart meowed. I won't smell any around here. No squirrel would dare make its nest near an owl hole. Look at the ground. What do you see? Cinderpaw looked down, puzzled. Leaves? Try burrowing under the leaves. The forest floor was carpeted with brown oak leaves, crisp with frost. Cinderpaw began sniffing among them, and then shoved her nose in right When she sat up, there was something the size and shape of a pine cone in her mouth. Yuck! Smells like crow food, she spat. Pieheart purred with amusement. You knew it was there, didn't you? Bluestar played the same trick on me when I was an apprentice. You'll never forget this stench. What is it? An owl-pod. Owl. You guys know what an owl-pod is, right? An owl-pod is a round ball of like rat bones and squirrel bones and everything else that the owl regurgitates. That's what an owl-pod is. And it's like bile and stuff. Yeah, you know it. Yeah, I thought you guys might be confused, that's why I explained it. If you don't know what the book is talking about, because I typically know what they're referencing in the book when it comes to like the cat's logic and versus our logic, feel free to ask me. An owl pod, Fireheart explained. He remembered what Bluestar had told him. Owls eat the same prey as us, but they can't digest the bones and fur, so their bellies roll the leftovers into pods and they spit them out. If you find one of those under a tree, it means you found an owl. Similar to an iPod, but not as enjoyable to listen to you. Why would you want to find an owl? Squeaked Cinderpaw in alarm. Fireheart's whiskers twitched as he looked into her wide eyes. As blue as her mother's, Frostfur must have told her elders' tale of how owls carried off young kits who strayed from their mother's side. Owls get a better view of the forest than we do. On windy nights, when the scents are hard to follow, you can look out for owls and follow where they hunt. Cinderpaw's eyes were still wide, but the fear had left them. And she nodded. She does listen sometimes, Fireheart thought with relief. Where next? Mused Cinderpaw. The gray sycamore, Fireheart decided. He traveled through the woods as the sun rose in the pale blue sky, crossing a two-legged path and another tiny stream. Eventually, they arrived at the sycamore tree. It's huge, Cinderpaw gasped. That's what she said. Smaller says he climbed to the top branch when he was an apprentice, Fireheart meowed. No way, meowed Cinderpaw. Mind you, when Smallier was an apprentice, this tree was probably only a sapling. Fireheart joked. He was still gazing up when the rustling sound behind him told him Cinderpaw had dashed off again. He sighed and chased after her through the bracken. His nose detected a familiar scent that made him nervous. Cinderpaw was heading towards Snake Rocks. Adders! Fireheart picked up his pace. He emerged from the trees and looked around anxiously. Cinderpaw was standing on a boulder at the bottom of a steep, rocky slope. Come on, I'll race you to the top, she mewed. Fireheart froze, horror-struck, as she crouched, ready to spring onto the next boulder. Cinderpaw, get down from there, he yelled. He held his breath as Cinderpaw turned and scrambled down again. She stood trembling, her fur on end. As Fireheart rushed over to her, this place is called Snake Rocks, he puffed. Cinderpaw looked up at him, her eyes huge. Snake Rocks? Adders live up there. A snake bite from one of those could kill a cat as small as you. Fireheart gave Cinderpaw a quick lick on the top of her head. Come on, let's have a look at the Thunderpath. Cinderpaw stopped shaking at once. The Thunderpath? Yep, meowed Fireheart. Follow me. He led Cinderpaw through the ferns, along a trail that skirted Snake Rocks, and took them to the part of the forest where the Thunderpath cut through like a hard gray river of stone. Fireheart kept from the edge of the forest. He could see from her twitching tail that Cinderpaw was desperate to creep forwards and sniff the thunderpath ahead of them. A familiar roar was beginning to ruffle his ear fur, and he could feel the ground trembling beneath his paws. "Stay where you are," he warned. "There's a monster coming." Cinderpaw opened her mouth a little. "Yuck," she mewed, screwing up her nose and flattening her ears. The rumbling noise was coming closer, and a shape appeared on the horizon. "Is that a monster?" she mewed. Fireheart nodded. Cinderpaw unsheathed her claws to grip the earth as the monster roared closer. She shut her eyes tight as it charged past, stirring the air around them in a storm of wind and thunder. She kept her eyes shut until the noise faded into the distance. Fireheart shook his head to clear his scent glands. "Sniff the air," he meowed. "Can you smell anything apart from the thunderpath stench?" He waited while Cinderpaw lifted her head and took several deep breaths. After a few moments, she mewed. "I remember that scent from when Brokenstar attacked our camp, and it was on the kits he took. When he brought them home, the Shadow Clan. Is that their territory beyond the Thunderpath?" "Yes," Fireheart answered, feeling his fur tingle at the thought of being so close to hostile clan territory. "We'd better get out of here." He decided to take Cinderpaw the long way home past the Two-Leg place, so she could see the tall pines and the tree-cut place. As they padded beneath the thin pine trees, the sense of Two-Leg's place had made Fireheart uneasy. Even though he'd lived in a place not far from there as a kid. "Stay alert," he warned Cinderpaw as she kept up behind him. Two-Legs sometimes walk here with dogs. The two cats crouched under the trees to look at the fences that bordered the Two-Leg territory. The crisp air carried a scent to Fireheart's nose and stirred an odd feeling of warmth inside him, although he didn't know why. "Look!" Cinderpaw pointed with her nose at a she-cat padding across the forest floor. The light brown tabby had a distinctive white chest and front paws. Her belly was swollen, heavy with unborn kits. "Kitty pet," sneered Cinderpaw. Her fur fluffed out. "Let's chase her out." Fireheart expected to feel the familiar rush of aggression at the sight of a stranger on ThunderClan territory, but his hackles stayed flat. For some reason, he couldn't understand. He knew this cat wasn't a threat. Before Cinderpaw could attack, Fireheart deliberately brushed against a stalk of crunchy bracken. The she-cat looked up, disturbed by the crackling noise. Her eyes widened with alarm. Then she whipped around and set off at a lumbering pace. Out of the trees, within moments, she was heaving herself over one of the Two-Leg fences. "Rats," complained Cinderpaw. "I wanted to chase her. I bet Brackenpaw will have chased hundreds of things today." "Yeah, but he probably didn't nearly get bitten by an adder," replied Fireheart, twitching his tail at her. "Now come on, I'm getting hungry." Cinderpaw followed him through the tall pines, grumbling about the pine needles pricking her paws. Fireheart warned her to keep quiet since there was no undergrowth here to hide in, and he felt every clan cat One second. He felt every clan's cat's discomfort at being in the open. They followed one of the stinking tracks, gouged out by the tree-cut monster, and stopped at the edge of the tree-cut place. It was silent, as Fireheart knew it would be until the next green leaf. Until then, only the track marks, deep and wide, and frozen into the soil, would remind the ThunderClan of the monster that lived in their forest. By the time they arrived back at the camp, Fireheart was exhausted. His muscles were still weary from the long journey with WindClan. Cinderpaw looked tired too. She stifled out a yawn and padded away to find Brackenpaw. Fireheart spotted Graystripe, beckoning to him from beside the nettle clump. "Here, I got you some fresh kill," Graystripe meowed. He hooked a dead mouse with his claw and flung it towards Fireheart. Fireheart caught it in his teeth and lay down next to Graystripe. "Good day," he mumbled with his mouth full. "Better than yesterday," answered Graystripe. Fireheart glanced up at him, worried, but Graystripe went on. "I enjoyed it, actually. Brackenpaw's keen to learn, that's for sure. So is Cinderpaw." Fireheart went back to chewing. "Mind you," Graystripe went on with a sparkle in his eye, "I kept forgetting I was a mentor and not the apprentice." "Me too," Fireheart admitted. They shared tongues until the moon rose and the coldness of the night drove them into their den. Graystripe was snoring within moments, but Fireheart felt strangely awake. The image of the pregnant she-cat kept returning to his mind. Even though he was surrounded by familiar smells of ThunderClan, her soft kitty pet scent lingered in his nostrils. He fell asleep at last, but his dream still carried the same scent, until finally he dreamed of his days as a kid. He remembered lying beside his mother's belly, curled in a bed softer than any forest moss, with his brothers and sisters. And still the scent of the she-cat lingered. Fireheart opened his eyes, suddenly jolted out of his sleep. Of course! The she-cat he had seen in the woods was his sister. That was the end of chapter 9, and we are going to start chapter 10 and the final chapter of this stream. Fireheart woke at dawn with the image of his sister still clear in his mind. He pushed his way out of the den, hoping the routine of the day would distract him. Just for this stream. Yeah. He remembers the scent, and all animals tend to remember scents that they've smelled before. It was another cold, frosty morning. Whitestorm and Longtail were waiting near the camp entrance, preparing to leave on patrol. Mousefur padded past on her way to join them and greeted Fireheart with a cheery mew. Whitestorm called for Sandpaw, who came racing out of her den just in time to follow the patrol as it pounded out of the camp. It was a scene that Fireheart had watched many times. But for once, he didn't yearn to join them as they thundered away into the morning fresh forest. He padded across the clearing, wondering if Cinderpaw was awake yet. Brindleface was just squeezing out of the narrow nursery entrance. A speckled kit followed her, then one more, a third kit, pale gray with darker flecks like the other, tumbled out and fell onto the ground. Brindleface picked it up by the scruff and placed it gently on its paws. The tenderness of Brindleface's actions brought Fireheart's dream flooding back. His mother had probably done the same for him. He knew that Brindleface's fourth kit had died soon after it was born, and she seemed to love the remaining kits even more fiercely now. Fireheart was overwhelmed by the pang of envy at the thought that the other cats here all shared something he did not. They were all clan-born. Fireheart had always been proud of his loyalty to the clan that had taken him in, given him a life he would never have known as a kitty pet. He still felt that loyalty. He would die to protect ThunderClan. but no one in the clan understood or even respected his kitty pet roots. Fireheart felt certain the she-cat he had seen yesterday would. With an ache in his heart, he wondered what memories they might share. Fireheart heard Graystripe's heavy paw steps behind him. He turned to greet his friend, stretching his head to touch Graystripe's nose. Could he take Cinderpaw for the day, he asked. Graystripe looked curiously at Fireheart. Why? Oh, it's nothing important, replied Fireheart, as casually as he could. I just wanted to check out something I saw yesterday. Watch out for Cinderpaw, though. She doesn't listen to orders very well. Don't take your eyes off her, or she'll be charging off in every direction. Graystripe's whiskers twitched with amusement. She sounds like a pawful. Still, it'll be good for Brackenpaw. He never charges off anywhere without thinking about it carefully first. Thanks, Graystripe. Fireheart bounded away towards the camp entrance before his friend could ask him where he was going. As the two-leg place came into view through the trees, Fireheart dropped into a crouch. He opened his mouth and breathed in the cold morning air. No sign of the ThunderClan patrol, and no two-leg scents either. He relaxed a little. Slowly, he approached the two-leg fence where he had seen the she-cat disappear. He hesitated at the bottom and looked around, sniffing the air once more. Then he leaped, landing on a fence post in one easy jump. No two legs to be seen. Just an empty garden with its strangely strongly scented plants. Fireheart felt exposed on the post. The branch of the tree hung low overhead. Its leaves had gone, but it would be easier to hide there. Silently, he pulled himself up and laid down to wait, flattening himself against the rough bark. Fireheart could see a swinging flap in the entrance to the two-leg place. He had used one just like that as a kid. He fixed his gaze on the flap, hoping his sister's face would appear at any moment. The sun rose slowly into the morning sky, but Fireheart started to feel cold. The damp branch was drawing the heat from his body. Perhaps the two legs were keeping his sister shut in. After all, her kidding would be soon. Fireheart licked a paw and wondered if he should go back to the camp. Suddenly, he heard a loud clatter. Fireheart looked up and saw his sister pop through the swinging flap. The fur along his spine rippled with anticipation, and Fireheart fought to stop himself from leaping down into her garden straight away. He knew he would frighten her, as he had done yesterday. He smelled like a forest cat now, not a friendly kitty pet. Fireheart waited until his sister had reached the end of the grass. Then he crept to the tip of the branch and slipped down onto the fence. Quietly, he jumped into the bushes below. The she-cat's scent brought his dream flooding back to him. How could he get her attention without frightening her? Desperately, he searched his mind, trying to think of the name his sister had been given. He could remember only his own kitty pet name. Fireheart called softly from the bushes, "It's me, Rusty." The she-cat stopped dead and looked around. Fireheart took a deep breath and crept out from the bushes. The cat's eyes widened with terror. Fireheart knew how he must appear to her, lean and wild, with the sharp forest scents on his pelt. The she-cat raised her hackles and hissed ferociously. Fireheart couldn't help feeling impressed by her courage. In a flash, he remembered his sister's names. "Princess, it's me, Rusty, your brother. Do you remember me?" Princess remained tense. Fireheart guessed she was wondering how this strange cat would know these names. He dropped into a submissive crouch, hope soaring in his chest as he watched his sister's expression slowly change from fear to curiosity. Rusty? Princess sniffed the air, wide-eyed and wary. Fireheart took a careful step forward. Princess did not move, so Fireheart edged closer. Still, his sister held her ground until Fireheart was standing only a mouse length away. "You don't smell like Rusty," she mewed. "I don't live with the Two Legs anymore. I've been living in the forest with ThunderClan. I carry their scent now." He's probably never heard of the clans, Fireheart realized, remembering his own innocence before he'd met Graystripe in the woods. Princess stretched her nose forward and rubbed her muzzle cautiously along his neck. "But our mother's smell is still there," she murmured, half to herself. Her words filled Fireheart with happiness, until her eyes narrowed. She took a step backwards, her ears flat with distrust. "Why are you here?" she asked. "I saw you yesterday in the woods," Fireheart explained. "I had to come back and speak with you." "Why?" Fireheart looked at her in surprise. "Because you're my sister. Surely she must feel something for him." Princess studied him for a moment. To Fireheart's relief, her guarded expression lifted. "You're very thin," she mewed critically. "Thinner than a kitty pet, maybe, but not thin for a clan. A forest cat," Fireheart replied. "Your scent was in my dreams last night. I dreamed of you and our brothers and sister and..." Fireheart paused. "Where's our mother?" "She's still with her housefolk," answered Princess. "What about..." Princess guessed what he was going to ask. "Our brothers and sisters? Most of them live near here. I see them in their gardens from time to time." They sat silently for a moment, and Fireheart asked, "Do you remember the soft bedding of our mother's basket?" He felt a flicker of guilt about longing for such kitty pet softness. But Princess purred. "Oh yes, I wish I could have had it for my own kitty." Ayo. Well, cats are like one of the best animals. Also, wow, bow tie moment. Yeah, they do a good job in this series. That's why I liked it. There's another series I'm thinking about getting if I ever finish this one. Fireheart's discomfort faded. It felt good to be able to talk of such tender memory without shame. "Will this litter be your first?" Princess nodded, uncertainty showing in her eyes. Foxes are high up in your... I bet they are. Fireheart felt a wave of sympathy. Even though they were the same age, she seemed to him a very young and naive. "You'll be fine," he mewed, remembering Brindleface's kitty. "You look as if your Two Legs treat you well. I'm sure your kids will be healthy and safe." Princess moved closer to him, pressing her fur against his flank. "There's going to be an ad in 3 minutes. This is likely going to be the last ad, so please remember to lower the volume." Fireheart felt his heart swell with emotion. For the first time since he was a kid, he caught a glimpse of what the clan cats must take for granted. The closeness of kinship, a common bond determined by birth and heritage. Suddenly, Fireheart wanted his sister to know about the life he led now. "Do you know about the clans?" Princess gazed at him, mystified. "You mentioned a ThunderClan." Fireheart nodded. "There are 4 clans altogether." He went on, the words tumbling out. "And the clan would take care of each other. Younger cats hunt for the elders. Warriors protect the hunting grounds from other clans. I trained all Greenleaf to become a warrior. now I have an apprentice of my own. Fireheart could see her bemused expression, that his sister couldn't understand everything he was telling her, yet her eyes brightened with pleasure as he spoke. It sounds as if you enjoy your life, she mewed in awe. A two-legged voice called from the house. Fireheart instantly darted under the nearest bush. I should go, Princess mewed. They'll be worried if I don't go back. And I have many tiny mouths to feed. I can feel them moving inside me. She glanced at her swollen belly, her eyes soft. Ayo. They're brother and sister, don't do that. This is not an Andy and Lele moment. Fireheart looked out from beneath the bush. Go on then. I have to return to my clan anyway, but I'll come back and see you. Yes, I'd like that. Princess called over her shoulder. She was already trotting back towards her two-legged nest. Goodbye. See you soon, Fireheart called. His sister disappeared from view, and he heard the swinging flap slap shut behind her. Once the garden was silent, Fireheart crept through the bushes to the fence. He jumped over it and ran into the forest. Memories of kithood scents crowded his mind, suddenly more real than the sense of the forest around him. Fireheart paused at the top of the ravine and looked down at the ThunderClan camp. He didn't feel ready to go back yet. He was worried that it would all seem strange to him. I'll go hunt, he thought. Cinderpaw would be safe with Greystripe for a while longer, and the clan would welcome any fresh kill. He turned away and headed back into the forest. I'm going to take a quick break with the ad, so be right back. I am back. Alright. So after this ad, I think there's not going to be any more for the rest of the stream. Thank you. It seems to be like some of you are actually getting lucky and not getting the ads. Lucky you guys. When he finally returned to the camp, he carried a bowl and a wood pigeon in his mouth. The sun was setting and the clan cats were gathering for their evening meal. Graystripe sat alone beside the nettle clump, a fat cabbage at his paws. Fireheart nodded to him as he padded across the clearing to the pile of fresh kill that had already been collected. Yeah, I don't know why. It's clearly doing the ads. Perhaps it could be either something to do with the category, or it could be to do with settings, or maybe they implemented it to where people who raid in don't get the ads. I don't know what they've done with it, but it seems to be common. Maybe, definitely. You're awesome because you're here. Haha. Hey yo. You two must be friends. Tiger Claw's sitting below the high rock, his amber eyes narrow. I noticed that Cinderpaw spent the day with Graystripe, he meowed, as Fireheart dropped his catch to the pile. Where were you? Fireheart returned Tiger Claw's gaze. It seemed a good day for hunting, too good to waste, he replied, his heart thudding in his chest. The clan needs all the fresh kill it can get at the moment. Tiger Claw nodded, suspicion darkening his eyes. Yes, but we also need warriors. Cinderpaw's training is your responsibility. I understand, Tiger Claw, Fireheart meowed. He dipped his head respectfully. I'll take her out tomorrow. Good. The deputy turned his head and looked around the camp. Fireheart picked up a mouse and carried it over to eat next to Graystripe. Find what you were looking for? Asked Graystripe absentmindedly. Yes, Fireheart felt a pang of sorrow for the pain in his friend's eyes. Are you thinking about that River Clan warrior? Yeah. You guys seem to be very good buddies. Just because you can't come from the same raid doesn't typically mean that you guys are buddies. But you guys seem to be friends. I do try not to, answered Graystripe quietly. It's just when I'm alone, I can't help remembering Barclays' prediction of unnecessary deaths. We could be very I see. You guys swear you know each other? You guys know each other? Maybe? Possibly? Interesting. Anyway, back to the book. I can't help remembering Barkface's prediction of an unnecessary death and trouble ahead. Here, Fireheart interrupted, and pushed his mouth towards Graystripe. That chaffinch looks like it will be half feathers. I'm not that hungry. My throat just died for a second. 1 second. Felt like my throat just tightened there. That was weird. This is when you know you need to drink more honey tea. He pushed his mouth. Now I'm messing up. God damn it. The random. I know, right? Right when I'm getting towards the end. Here, Fireheart interrupted and pushed his mouth towards Graystripe. That chaffinch looked like it would be half feathers, and I'm not that hungry. Want to swap? Graystripe shot him a grateful glance, and the two friends exchanged prey and began to eat. As he crunched on the chaffinch, Fireheart scanned the clearing. You could see Sandpaw and Dustpaw outside the apprentice's den. Dustpaw was busy ripping apart a rabbit. Fireheart caught Sandpaw's eye, but she looked away. Cinderpaw lay beside the old tree stump where he shared many meals as an apprentice. She was chatting enthusiastically to Brackenpaw, who nodded from time to time while plucking the feathers from his sparrow. Seeing the two young cats, brother and sister, lying together, so at ease, reminded Fireheart once more of Princess, and for the first time, the familiar sight of his clan made Fireheart feel uneasy. He had been careful to lick his sister's smell from his fur before returning to camp, but it was her scent that lingered in his nostrils as the sun disappeared over the distant horizon. He had found the closeness he had missed, but it had given shape to a sense of loneliness that, until now, had lain vague and nameless in his heart. Were the deep-rooted memories he shared with Princess stronger than his loyalty to the clan? And that is the final page of chapter 10. Yeah, to do with the random joking, I have a tight esophagus, and that's why I try to give myself more breaks. So my throat tightens a lot if I talk a lot, and that affects, like, it makes me catch my tongue and everything, because like I can feel the tightness in my throat, like how the muscles, they're pulling against my voice box when I talk for a long time. Usually on normal streams, I don't talk as often, so it doesn't cause as much strain, but when it comes to the Friday ASMR ones, it tends to cause more because I don't get to pause as much. This is good. I don't know, usually vibe with these kind of things, not like reading just these kind of stories. Yeah. It's a good series. It's the Warriors series, that is Warriors, like all caps, and it's the Cat series. The first book is Into the Wild. This is the second book, called Fire and Ice. If you want to get it, that is what they are called. That is the first series that have come out. There is a series before this, but it was published after this series. And the one before that, like, shows the stories of all the kitties that had died, or the clan leader, like before the clan leader was a clan leader, so on and so forth. And there's also other clan stories for like different clans. Rarely actually stick around and vibe with random streams, but every once in a while, yeah. I am typically a lot more chaotic usually, and I screech a lot. You know, typical fox stuff where you screech and yell and go, what the fuck? Also, again, this is not the normal voice that I use. Hold on. Hang on a second.
This is actually the normal one that I use. I am a gender fluid, so I tend to typically switch, but yeah. So this is the model and voice you'll be hearing in my other streams. I know I probably threw you off with that one.
I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing happened. But, yeah. So that was the chapter 10. If you have any questions before I try to look for a raid, or if you have someone that you would like me to raid, you can tell me before I go looking. But other than that, I typically just raid people I've already followed, or if I can't find them, then I'll try to raid someone new. After a few, my voice isn't normally like this. I was like, I got you, yeah. So this is the female voice. This is the voice that I use, and people are like, "Where did you throw Mabu? Why did you put Mabu in the basement?" And I can get very seductive with it, and it freaks people out. Especially when I do this in games, when on my normal streams, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna fuck with these people, and I switch to this voice. At this time of night, I don't know, might know someone just a sec. Alright. I'll give you a minute. I'm currently looking at Ren's art in Discord anyway. Actually, let me see. I wonder if anyone's welcomed you guys in the Discord. Oh, I see some people have talked. Come with pure intentions, or do you? Ayo. There's actually an 18 plus area in the Discord. Ayo. Oh yeah, they're talking about the Discord perks when you use the store. So the gift thing is something you get when you go into the Fox Snack store on my Discord that I have set up. And you get the points by either collecting the income in the bot command area or just talking. Typically, some people would be nice and just give you the coin so you can get it. It's set up that way so that if I get bot rated, they won't be able to, you know, cause problems. No, two people, two different kinds of stuff, both dope. What they both do, let me look. Let's see, who beat this? Ah, that's an ASMR artist, okay. And you know what? We're reading about cats, right? That one has cat in the name. So that should work, right? You go to Passing Cat Loaf? Would going to Passing Cat Loaf be fine with you? Yeah? Could be Dustin, maybe. Ayo. Maybe. Possibly. You never know. Alright, you guys. I thank you guys for joining me. I also thank you for joining the Discord. Thank you to both the streamers that rated me, and thank you for trusting me with your communities. I hope you guys had fun, but I will be going now. It is now getting pretty dang late. Alright guys, see you later. Babusuki out.